Music is the greatest thing you can do. A nice, like, soft song playing, and then all of a sudden you just start belting out like a fucking moron. You can't beat it. That's how life goes. It's some of the little, you know, it's always a little bit about it's about the little things in life, you know. Sometimes you don't have to look too far. Sometimes you just go ahead and, you know, you do the thing. And you ruin a song. Sometimes you just have to ruin a song. Just as simple as that. Again, like, life is about the little things. It's about the little things. Like ruining songs. Hi, I'm Warren. Welcome. Welcome to the Thursday night stream here. Hope you are all enjoying yourselves tremendously this week. Hope things are going your way. I've had an extremely busy, stressful week. But then I always think about, then when it comes time to stream, I should say. Then when it comes time to sit down and do the stream, there's just like, it's a complete release. I don't know if you noticed at all, but on the Monday stream, I was, and it's all work related. Like, it's all stuff that is fine. Ultimately, it's just work related. Nothing really serious or personal. More importantly, nothing attached to my health or attached to the people I love. You know, it's just work stuff. But I was so anxious. I was just like I was a tornado of anxiety on Monday and Tuesday for that matter, and Sunday thinking about Monday. But I got to a point on Monday where it was very, very difficult. I was really having a hard time, and then I come on the stream and I do my little wrestling stream here, you know, in front of you wonderful folks. And I'm talking about, you know, pro wrestling nonsense, and it just completely cathartic. Just like a complete release to all of the nonsense that I had been feeling and that was jammed up inside me, and it did me so much good. As it always should be, and it always has. That's the thing. You know, I'm going to do this as long as I enjoy doing it. Or until I become a millionaire because of it. And then I have to continue making more money. But that's always been the plan. Just do this as long as I'm enjoying myself. Just keep doing it. There's no other incentive really. You know, I joke around about, you know, the memberships and the money and all of that, you know, just like I did here. So, well, the day I become, you know, a millionaire. But, you know, I have not constructed any plans to become rich doing YouTube, particularly pro wrestling, you know, content on YouTube, which is extremely niche. Commentary specifically, extremely niche. So I'm not going to pretend here. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, you know, oh yeah, one day I'm going to strike it. I'm going to strike it big. The one thing I am looking forward to is, you know, probably eventually when I retire from my job, right? When I finally, you know, when finally I get too old to do anything, then I might like, okay, let's go full time on this. Then I'll be like, yeah, we're streaming every day now moving forward. The point I'm trying to make, as confusing as it may sound, is that when I do this, when I do the streams, it is out of pure joy. It is joy that motivates me because I love doing it. And sometimes I forget how much I love doing it. And there are days that happen on occasion, not frequent, very infrequently, where I'll finish, let's say, my day at work on a Monday or on a Thursday, and I'm gonna be like, oh my God, I have to stream in like 3 hours. Ugh, kind of thing. And then, I sort of drag myself to it. Look, all right, we'll just do it. There's no good reason not to do it. And then the minute I start talking, the minute I start doing this little warm-up routine, I'm bouncing around, and my head is everything's like clearing up. There's just flowers and rainbows and strawberries. And then I think to myself, why did I not want to do this? This is so much fun. Why did I decide? Why was I thinking that I did not want to do this tonight? Fuck off, man. What would you have done? Sit on the couch and, play video games or whatever the fuck, Come on, man. You're not doing anything. This is what you need to be doing. This is the thing here. So, it's like, I get so much out of it. I really, really do. And like I said, not that long ago, but maybe I could clarify this because I haven't talked about it in a while. There's a lot of new folks around. I've always felt that, being a pro wrestling fan, oftentimes means that the people around you, as an adult, when you're younger, it's different. But as an adult, a pro wrestling fan is sort of looked upon with curiosity in the best in the best circumstances, right? Like no one goes, "Oh, really? Yeah." They go, "You're into wrestling?" Like that's mostly the reactions. Like, "Oh, really? Oh, what? You?" Those are the types of reactions I get, and I have no one to talk about it really at all. Like I don't connect with anyone over pro wrestling, and I've always stated that one of my goals was to create a community of like-minded people who enjoy pro wrestling that we can all sort of bond over and connect and just chat it up and have a nice time. Like, what's the point of having these types of hobbies if you don't have the chance to share with others, that talk about it with others, to speak on what animates you with others? Like, there's no point. And that's always been a goal. And the goal has never felt more tangible than it has been since over the past couple of months, specifically, where it feels like I feel like there really is like this community around that there's this community around the show here and what I do, and that's tremendous, and I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone who shows up, all the regulars. If you're a new face popping in, seeing my soon-to-be 52-year-old mug for the first time, and you're like, "Oh, this guy's not so bad," then we'd love to have you stick around. We'd love to have you come back another time. We'd love to have you join the Discord. It's like, just give it a shot. We're non-threatening here, I think. I think we're nice people. I think overall we're cool, right? I think overall solid little community, I believe. Anyway, not much to report necessarily outside of that, other than the fact that I'm super glad to hang out here tonight, talk about some pro wrestling. Cause it's been a hell of a week. It's been a tremendous week, and I'm looking forward to this weekend. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be doing, but I'll figure it out because I'm a smart guy. Because I'm a smart guy. Let's see here. What do we got? Who's hanging out with us tonight? Let's start saying hello to people. There we go. Okay. My mouse wasn't working for a second. Silver Apocalypse, nice to see you and welcome to the chat. Also, member of the channel, Did they change? Did YouTube change the moderation symbol, the little icon? It used to be a wrench, right? Now it's like a little shield. Interesting. Okay. I was shocked there for a second. Welcome to the chat, brother. It's good to see you. Sports and Things Shows. Nice to see you, Carlos. Welcome. Boris, nice to see you too. And welcome if you thought you had a stressful week as Starmer. Look, don't get me wrong. There are people who have much worse weeks than I had this week. Trust me. I am very self-aware on that front. JD, nice to see you and welcome. Finally able to get into one of these from the get-go. Don't let me down, Warren. Oh, Jesus, the pressure. I'm going to crack. Thank you for being here. Your commitment to this is appreciated, Warren. Well, your commitment to showing up on these live streams is appreciated, Boris. You're here. You're part of the regulars. You come very often. Don't clip that. You show up very often. So thank you very much for your commitment, Boris. Viper Vices. 2 S's like a viper. I was talking about new faces. There you go. I don't think we've seen you around. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the MrWarrenHayes show. Do you think TNA has money to sign Dakota Kai? Is this something that's going around that Dakota Kai might be going to TNA? Is this I haven't heard this rumor. Or are we just shooting the shit? Look, if we're just shooting the shit, I don't think TNA has any money. Right? Like that's that's the thing. I don't think they're any richer. I don't think they have any more money than they did before the deal, really. Whatever deal it is, like we've mentioned multiple times, the fact that nobody involved in this deal has hit the press the press release circuit and started telling oh yes, we've signed for multiple years at this amount and whatnot, and no information has ever been leaked, is kind of proof, I think, or at least it's a very solid foundation that the deal that they have is not that great, and that it's probably an ad split between AMC and TNA, and TNA does not want to herald that. And again, like I've said it before, there's nothing wrong with an ad split. AEW started with an ad split with TNT. But then what happened? AEW started racking in big ratings and was a runaway success. So WBD took the contracts, tore them up. Or was it just Warner Brothers at the time? It was just plain old Warner Brothers at the time, right? And they just tore the contracts up. And they're like, we're going to give you a proper deal now. So, it might just happen to TNA as well. It's just like there's they don't have money yet. Not really. Not nothing, there's no big signings. There's no big production changes. They're not flush with cash. So that's my very long-winded answer. And it'd be very much a shame if Dakota Kai showed up in TNA, because I think she's better than that. I'm fairly new to discovering this /you, but you are a Canadian treasure, or Quebec if you lean that way. Oh, Lord. Oh, I agree. We don't have, but look, no. We have many Canadian treasures. I'm going to take that back. And a lot of them go to the United States to find success, like a lot of comedians, right? A lot of very, very funny people came from Canada and moved on and had very prolific careers in the United States, right? Then of course there's a couple of embarrassments along the way. There's a couple of things like Justin Bieber. You can keep him; he's all yours, America, and then hang on to him. But we will claim Catherine O'Hara. That's fine. Rest in peace. Oh, you do watch a lot of stuff there, Viper. Good for you. Good for you. A wide palette of wrestling is important. It is very hard to find wrestling fans to chat with, especially in some of our older ages. Yeah, exactly. It's a little tougher. It's a little tougher. Is there any AJ Styles news? Nope, not as far as I know. Not as far as I know. You hear rumors, you hear stuff going, oh, I've heard this, I've heard that. And you're like, all right. There's a bit of a consensus, I think, amongst folks that he's not done, right? That he is not done. The question is just what is his next step? But again, it's really funny. People think that he's going to go to TNA. I mean, don't get me wrong. I brought up that theory like earlier this way on the Monday stream, right? I gave you I threw it out there. The idea that what if AJ Styles, his contract really wasn't exactly up with WWE and the retirement was all kayfabe so that he could go to TNA and become a TNA talent because he's no longer a WWE talent. But I don't see why AJ Styles would want to do that. I don't see why AJ Styles would be like, yeah, let me go to this low rent production. I don't know. Outside of an uncommon sense of loyalty, which he has. Well, there you go. What about Bubbles? Oh, as far as Canadian treasures go, oh no, Bubbles is canceled. Do you guys know this? Bubbles is a sex pest. Yeah, and that exploded just like a couple of months ago, but it was a really it was one of these we're talking about Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys, just in case people don't know exactly what the hell we're talking about. Bubbles is a sex pest. Yeah, it was a badly kept secret regardless. It was something that, because a lot of his he did a few things on the set of Trailer Park Boys, and apparently not a nice guy in real life, and a sex pest. So no, like a year ago I would have told you absolutely Bubbles is a national treasure. Now I tell you, which is a shame, because I love Trailer Park Boys, and I think all red-blooded Canadians do. I think all red-blooded Canadians had a good time with Trailer Park Boys, and it's still a show like I'll put on in the background, hearing Mr. Leahy, and Ricky just go at it and argue, and there's something comforting about it, but it's just, you can't really, it's a rough thing to support now, to go out and say, let's go. Anyway, so this is where we're at. Thank you all for hopping in, for joining, for being a friend, coming down the road and back again, etc., etc. What's on the menu tonight, Warren? We'll get to that. And you know how this goes. We ease into things. You take your time. You don't want to go straight. You don't want to go straight for it. You take your time. You live in the moment. You just build the anticipation. That's what you got to do. You don't want to you don't want to brute force your way. It's stupid. Don't do that. A lot more fun the other way. Take your time. However, I will tell you that the Mr. Warren Hayes show proper, the podcast, has been released since yesterday, as is the case on every Wednesday. So that is available right now for everyone. And also today, the AEW Dynamite review was released as well. So that is available for consumption right now. Now the thing here is, and I did release it a little late. It was a little on the late side today. Just because, stuff happened and I couldn't get it out on time, but it is there in case you didn't see it in your feeds yet or whatnot, on YouTube, on your podcast player of choice. It's all there. So you can get in there and listen to another glowing AEW review. I don't know what to tell you. AEW has been on a roll recently. It's really been excellent. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know what else to say. If anything, the reviews are starting to sound redundant because you're like, oh yeah, every week, Warren, it's really good, is it? Yeah, it is actually. It has been actually really fucking great these past few weeks. And the trend just seems to be going, and they're doing an incredible job building this Dynamite show from Australia in 2 weeks. They're doing such an incredible job at it, and then that it's like it almost feels like the pay-per-view. It almost feels like a show that you should be paying for. It's an incredible lineup they have so far. Maybe we should check at it. We'll take a look at it in a second. Maybe we should just take a look at, just wrap our minds around it. But AEW has been fantastic, and I talk about it in my reviews, and I tell you exactly why they're fantastic shows these days. And you all know that I'm completely okay with being very critical of AEW when things don't go the right way, right? You know this. I don't sugarcoat this. I'm not some glazer for AEW. I have the only pony I have in this pro wrestling race. The only pony that I have is good pro wrestling. That's the only pony that I have in this race. So as long as I get good pro wrestling in the stuff I watch, I'm not going to complain. I'm gonna be positive about it. But if I don't, I gotta watch out for my pony then. If I'm not getting good pro wrestling, I'm gonna watch out. I'm gonna watch out for my pony that is in this race. This weekend is the big Stardom show, the anniversary show. This weekend, headlined by Saya Kamatani versus Starlight Kid. We're gonna preview it in a little bit. But I'm telling you this now because there will very likely be a review. I don't know when I'll be able to do it because I will not be watching live. And so it'll be essentially when I'll be able to get around to watching the show. But when I do, I will do a review. And what does that mean, folks? You know what that means. That means members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show will get the review in early access before anyone else does. They're going to get access to the review, early access to the review, and enjoy it before the rest of the freeloaders get to it later on next week. So there you go. So if you're into it and you'd like to hear my thoughts on this weekend's big Stardom show, please subscribe to the channel. Well, subscribe to the channel regardless, but become a member of the channel. Hit the little thing and show a little bit of support, and things will be wonderful. There you go. I think that's all. That's all about the housekeeping. I think I've covered everything. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I covered everything. So there we go. D. Owens, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Also, just happens to be a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel who will benefit from having this lovely, from having early access to the Stardom review this weekend. See? CanCon has given us Kenny versus Spenny, Letter Kenny, and Kim's Convenience. A lot of K's in things that Canadians enjoy, right? And help fund my expat brother in Toronto's software company, so Canada is cool with me. You want to hear something very tragic? I have never watched an episode of Letter Kenny, and I always wanted to. And I think that's like morally wrong for a Canadian to have not watched a single episode of Letter Kenny. I have watched episodes of Corner Gas, if that counts, which I think is not always funny. Like I didn't think, I never thought Corner Gas was all that fun. If you don't know what Corner Gas is, it's fine. It's a Canadian. It was a Canadian sitcom set in a a rural gas station, and with the wacky characters that live around it. And I don't know, it never quite my thing. But as far as Canadian comedy goes, like things that are strictly like Canadian, well, strictly SCTV, right? And Kids in the Hall. I was a big Kids in the Hall guy in the 90s. I watched them while they were all young and very exciting. I loved Kids in the Hall. I loved it. Letterkenny's an all-time show for me. Yeah, I mean, there's so many people who like it, and isn't there like a spin-off too, Shoresy, based on one of the characters, right? And that apparently that's very good too. See, I gotta stop being I gotta stop being stupid, is what I'm trying to say. Pedro the Fifth, nice to see you. Welcome. Shun the non-believer. Corner Gas was total cheese dick stuff, a CBC sitcom. But wasn't it on CTV? Or am I misremembering? But I guess I think what you're saying is that it was a CBC style sitcom, and I agree. Like, it wasn't always funny. It was like for the Canadians in the chat, especially the older ones, It was a comedy show, the Red Green Show, right? The old guy with the beard and stuff. And I never thought was funny. And people were, they'd be slapping their thighs. Red Green, what a Canadian icon. I'm like, this guy's not funny. I don't understand. I never understood why people thought the Red Green Show was funny. And I realize right now that what I'm speaking of at this very precise moment is for Canadians only. Because you'd show that to an American and they themselves would be like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, I never understood it. I never understood why it was so funny. Never understood. Rick Mercer was funny. Rick Mercer was really fucking funny. My parents' friends loved Red Green. Dude stunk. I'd rather have watched Rita McNeil sing about the plight of Nova Scotia. Yeah, pretty much. Because here's the difference, is that Rita McNeil was talented and could sing, whereas Red Green was just like boring. But I think it was probably, I think you might have put the nail on the head. I think it was just a generational thing. Because yes, I think it was a parents' show. It was a show for parents, for old people who sat down and would enjoy. Sit down and go like, yeah, Red Green's really funny, but it had to be someone over like 40. And me in the 80s, 90s, I'm in my 20s. Like, no, fuck Red Green. This is not funny. And because in the meantime, we've got the Kids in the Hall, where I'm like, this shit's great. This rules. And then I'm discovering Monty Python on top of that. It's like, what the fuck is Red Green? The fuck is a Red Green? And then I'm watching Letterman, and then and then I get they're completely drawing a blank. Stephen Wright, who I always thought was super funny. I ain't got no time for Red Green. See, the thing with Canadian funny people, comedians, the truly funny ones, all go to the States to have great careers, right? And the unfunny ones stay in Canada because they can't make it in the States. Like, ultimately that's the thing, If Jim Carrey wasn't funny, he'd still be, he'd have some kind of, he'd have some kind of CBC show that'd be running for the past 20 years, shot out of some studio in Edmonton somewhere, right? But turns out he's funny. Anyway, that's enough Canadian culture for tonight. That's enough. We're done. We're done talking about all of that. Any good CanCon those of us in the state know about? Well, like the kids in the hall, right? The kids in the hall. I was a huge fan. And I still think they're funny, and I still like watching them. I still think they're funny guys. What do you want from me? Anyway, look, how about we just abandon all of this talk about, very culturally specific things and watch, a penultimate folk hero in the world of independent professional wrestling and kick off this show. Booyah! Ba 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 ba. There's no Jacques sound. Wait a second. No. We're doing this again. I'm sorry. This will be fixed immediately.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Jacques Moliere. Just let me tell you a little bit about myself.
Now we can do this properly.
I'm a master, and I represent
NWA,
Mountain State Wrestling.
Booyah! There we go. Fixed. There we go. Mr. Antox, nice to see you and welcome. All right. Thank you, Jacques. Apologies, everyone. I didn't want to give anyone a scare that they wouldn't be able to enjoy the hoo-yah. Got to be able to enjoy the hoo-yah. All right. This is our sweet little docket for this evening, folks. These are the topics we have lined up. Oh, wait a second. What do we want to do? We were talking about AEW Grand Slam. I can't spell. Grand Slam Australia 2026. And I want to see if we just to take a look at this card so that we can see how this is all shaping up. Look at this. We got MJF versus Brody King in the main event that has been built for weeks, right? Like this, you probably, I'm trying to say too many things at once. Do you all recall that before Brody officially jumped threw his hat into the mix, right? Suddenly he's getting a push. He's getting squash matches on Dynamite. Remember this? For the weeks leading up, warming him up for this, making sure that people understand that, hey, you know what? Brody King's a badass and he's hanging around and he's destroying fools. You remember that? This is what it led to. They started doing the Brody King vignettes and the squash matches while Bandito was chasing MJF for the title. This has been some well thought out, well planned out booking. I cannot, the standby squashes, exactly. I can't complain. You can't say anything about how good and solid this world title situation has been, and I talk about it at length on the Dynamite review, which I'm not going to go back over and hammer out those details. You can go listen to the audio video AV that I've recorded earlier today. You can go check that out. But nonetheless, like I think I still want to underscore the fact that the booking for the world title has been stunningly good and exciting and fresh. It's been really, really good. So we get to a point now where Brody King is in a main event and challenging for a world title, and he feels credible. This has been really well done. And of course, like, immediately now people are wondering, it's like, well, what if he loses? Well, are they going to continue elevating him? I think we need to pump the brakes, though. I don't think this is an elevation necessarily for Brody. I don't think it's something where Brody is breaking through a ceiling here. Now, I could be wrong because with what happened last night on Dynamite with the crowd chants, you could convince me if you made a solid, proper argument. I am open to the idea of belting up Brody King, making him your world champion in this circumstance. You could absolutely make that argument for me. But, especially with the press that AEW has been getting outside of our typical little wrestling bubble of miscreants. We're talking mainstream attention. We've got the TMZ. We've got the NBC. We've got all sorts of articles popping up in areas, in places of media that wrestling typically dares not tread, or would dare to tread, but is forbidden to tread. So, it's like, I'm interested. I'm interested in all. I'm interested to see how this goes. I personally, I don't think Brody is winning, despite the groundswell of support that has happened. I don't think it's happening. I don't like. If anything, I think this effervescence right now is I don't think you can tie it necessarily directly to Brody. I think Brody is a catalyst for it. Brody brings this conversation into AEW, and the fans react in accordance, right? But I think it's more of a temporary thing. I think they keep it on Max. It makes sense to me to just to keep it on Max, especially since, look, you can tear up your plan. Here's the thing, is that you can tear up the plans and start over again, right? But clearly we're setting up Hangman for MJF at Revolution. Are we going to do that? Are we going to risk that? Is what I meant. Are we going to pull the plug on that by having Brody go over? Anyway, I'm just saying, Brody King will always be fine in this company, I think, from this moving forward, and I think this is, he's always going to be fine. I don't want to do a deep analysis on Brody King and where I think he's going to end up and whatnot. Not today, not tonight, not after what happened last night. I don't think this is the moment to sort of break down things and, well, what about his career? How's this going to go? So now, let's just enjoy this. There's a lot to enjoy in what's happened over the past 24 hours in regards to AEW. Anyway, and the media attention that they're getting. Yeah, so MJF, Brody King for the World Championship. And I appreciate, I appreciate that once in a while, people win the eliminator matches. The challengers, defeat the champions in the eliminator matches. And because it reminds us that the eliminator matches, are not just like throwaway matches, that there's, big repercussions. There's stuff that can happen. There's truly an opportunity that exists there. So to allow that to happen twice in one show, also, I think that's significant. And we have the AEW Women's World Tag Team titles that will be on the line with the Babes of Wrath against Mega Bad. I have a rant on the name Mega Bad on the Dynamite review, so I'm not going to do it again. But I don't know who decided that calling their tag team Mega Bad was a good idea. But look, if the tag team championship match is anything like the match that they had last night on Dynamite, it's going to be pretty rad. I liked last night. I think last night's match, the women's tag team match, I think this was my favorite Babes of Wrath match since they've been together. And by far, I have not been as high on Babes of Wrath as a lot of people are. And last night I was like, okay, they both worked. Everyone worked hard in that match. Great pace. Everyone worked hard. It was very good. It was a very good match. So I'm looking forward to the championship match more than I did without it. Well, there you go. Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita for the Continental Championship. Who cannot be excited for that? That's going to fucking rule. Hangman Adam Page versus Andrade to get the number one contender spot. That fucking rules. That absolutely rules. And then Orange Cassidy and Toni Storm versus Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta, and whoever gets pinned must have their head shaved. Good old hair versus hair match. Let's go. I can't believe this is a fucking card that is going to be on cable television without any extra cost. People, this card fucking slaps. It's all good. And there's something for everyone. You've got your nice little diversion with the hair versus hair match, which is, it's going to be a lot of silliness, and that's fine. That's what it's going to be for, right? You're going to get your serious hard-hitting match with Mox and Takeshita. You're going to get your big-time stars all up and down the card. You're going to have, you're going to have a big-time, you're going to have a big world championship match with MJF and Brody, the guy that the guy that no one really takes seriously as a champion, but yet now everyone's sort of buying stock into it. And then the fuck ice chant on top of that. There is so much heat on this show. It's tremendous. Like, we like to give Tony Khan a really rough time when the booking in AEW stinks. We do. We like it. That's what we like. We give him, right? And justifiably so. Justified, this shit sucks, Tony chants. when things are not going well. But then you turn around and then you get when you get really excellent booking, we have to pat him on the back. You're not being fair if you can't do both. And AEW has been on a fucking roll. This has been really good. And this card rocks. And we'll probably talk about it, over the next couple of streams or whatever as we get closer to the show. So there. Slam Hub Wrestling, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Also, after that Ospreay video package last night, if it wasn't as shearing before he's winning at Wembley, then AEW made it blatantly obvious. Hey, you know what the great thing is that when I was watching that, I was like, oh, Ospreay's about ready to come back. Like, that's the thing. Like, even outside of, he's going to win Wembley, it's, first and foremost, he's ready. Because they wouldn't be airing it if they didn't see his return date, if they didn't already pencil that in somewhere. This is where Will Ospreay's coming back. I'm assuming he's going to be back in time for the Owen, and he's going to win the Owen, and that's going to be the path to All In. Because like I said last year, I love the idea of the Owen Hart tournament being, the spot to punch your ticket to go to All In. I love that. Instead of having a Royal Rumble, have a tournament to determine the number one contender for the World Championship at the biggest show of the year. I'm super for it. So clearly things are clearing up, and you could not have gotten just a little excited. You're just a little excited. You're like, fuck yeah, Will Ospreay's coming back. Okay. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for whatever version of Will Ospreay we're going to get. I'm just ready for it. And AEW is going to have a very, very rare second chance at belting up this guy at the height of his powers. We talked about it on the last stream, I think. Yeah, we talked about it on last stream about the decision to push Swerve forward and not Will, despite Will being so very much more over, I should say, than what's his face? Swerve. But that with, 2020 vision was probably making Swerve a top guy was probably the better decision, right? Yeah, there's still no sign of Kyle Fletcher on this show. What's he doing? He's angling for Ciampa's TNT title, right? They got to do something. They got to do something with the hometown boy, right? They gotta. I'd be fine if they scrap team names that are just combining names or phrases. Oh God, you and me both. I spent way too much time talking about that on the review today. Yay. Well, Babes of Wrath is a better name than Brawling Birds. Brawling Birds is a better name than Mega Bad, I'll tell you what. I want the Owen Hart tournament to be a 4-week thing since All In isn't until August 30th. Well, they can start the Owen whenever they want, really. Right? Wait, All In is in August. Yeah, that's right. So, they'll start it in fucking, they can do it anytime they want. Any chance they'll ever do a tournament that's more than 4 per side? Maybe this year. Maybe because maybe they do something closer to the New Japan Cup this year since the All In is way all the fuck away in August, excuse me. They want to start earlier. Maybe they'll give us a bigger field, but I don't think so. I don't think so because I would think, just based off, things that Tony has said in interviews and whatnot, in particular about the C2, I think he's very weary about booking tournaments because he's deathly afraid of people injuring themselves out. I think that's something that he doesn't like, and it happened with Kyle O'Reilly this year. And so I think it's something where he's like, look, if I'm booking someone into the tournament, if I announce it, it has to be that person, and then someone gets injured out, and I think he hates it. I think he hates that kind of shit. But as a fan from the outside, I just look at that and I was like, just throw in anyone. Who cares? Like, even if it's the person that was supposed to win your fucking tournament, then that means all you have to do is scrap your plans and do something else. That's all you got to do. Like, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal internally because then there's a lot of wrangling that has to happen, right? You have to rethink brackets and whatnot. But who cares? Like, just throw in someone else. Like when Kyle O'Reilly, the big stink, when Kyle O'Reilly got injured and you're like, it doesn't matter. It's fine. Just replace someone. Just replace. It's fine. I don't mind. It's not that big a deal. There should be alternates ready to go. It's fine. And you know what they can also do to patch up these things is bring in 1 or 2 guys from the outside again. Throw them to a bigger tournament field. Have them lose in their first round, or make them go ahead, make them win the first round and lose in the quarterfinals. Who cares? It's just like, it's fine. You've got partners to do that kind of shit with now. So it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's all fine. There you go. All right. Mega bad not only sounds generic, you're basically saying, hey, we are mega bad. Come on now. Let's start. Come on. Okay. So I want to cover this little tidbit here of information because I know I've had conversations, I have had talks with people in private about it, and like friends and pals and close relations. We've talked about it a bit, and I should have and I think we should at least address it. We really didn't touch on it when Marty Scurll released that photograph on Instagram of him and Hangman Adam Page hanging out of a Cracker Barrel, which is an excellent restaurant choice, by the way. It's I miss Cracker Barrel. But when the photo was released, it caused a bit of a stink, caused a bit of discourse, and it's all sort of died down. And I don't think anyone was really thinking about it again until John Alba had an interview with Hangman Adam Page where he brought it up and Hangman addressed it. So it's like, oh, okay. Well, since the Hangman has decided that this is going to be news, well, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it then, because we'll get to all my opinions in just a second. All right, because strap in, folks. So, despite being considered a face of goodwill, this is the article that John Alba wrote on the takedown on SI in regards to Hangman Adam Page and the Marty Scurll photograph. Despite being considered a face of goodwill by many pro wrestling fans, AEW World Trios champion and former AEW World Champion Hangman Adam Page recently encountered some controversy regarding his association with a former member of the Elite. The villain Marty Scurll was once a close associate with the likes of Page, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and other members of Bullet Club, as all the group would rise in prominence and eventually join forces to form All Elite Wrestling. He would help lead the creative team in Ring of Honor for a period of time, and it appeared that a jump to AEW was inevitable, but that would not ultimately come to pass. In 2020, Scurll was accused of engaging in sexual misconduct with a 16-year-old girl in the UK at a gathering in 2015. Scurll would claim that both parties were intoxicated, and he believed the encounter was consensual at the time. The age of consent where the alleged incident occurred is 16. Regardless, he was investigated by Ring of Honor and eventually released from his deal as head booker. He has largely remained outside of the mainstream pro wrestling scene since. In January, Scurll posted a picture with Page outside of a Cracker Barrel, prompting a swell of negativity towards Page for remaining associated with an individual accused of sexual misconduct. Speaking exclusively with the takedown on SI on Sunday about a variety of topics, Page discussed the photo and his friendship with Scurll. The entire clip can be seen in this piece, but we will not be watching the entire clip. We will be reading the article. Page noted that he spent nearly half a decade traveling the world with Scurll, and the two grew very close. He said that when the allegations against Scurll emerged, he was in disbelief. The alleged time frame of the encounter, he said, was prior to Page becoming friendly with him. I think when that happened, I was obviously surprised, shocked. It didn't seem like the person I knew, Page said. But I mean, I knew now that it was, and I guess I was kind of like faced with a choice, like what to do with that information. And I reached out to him because he had faced a lot of consequences from the public. He had lost his job from Ring of Honor. He was facing consequences from people online. So I checked to see how he's doing, and I remain in touch with him for you know what? Since then. has been 6 years. The two-time AEW world champion noted that despite the sustained relationship, he believes what Skrull is accused of is having engaged. Excuse me. Let me read that again. The two-time AEW world champion noted that despite the sustained relationship, he believes what Skrull is accused of having engaged in was wrong. I guess I kind of will make a couple of things clear about it. I completely recognize that what he did, his actions, are abhorrent, disgraceful. They are. There's no excuse. I completely recognize that, he said. I've always thought that, will always think that about his actions. And I guess as a consequences of his actions, the public has felt strongly about what he did. And for 6 years, I think because of those reactions, he's been unable to be a part of mainstream professional wrestling because of, what the public perception would be. Page said he never intended for the photo of the two to be posted publicly and had been wanting to address some of the backlash he received. I don't want that photo to seem like some kind of endorsement or I have any interest whatsoever in whitewashing what he did or any interest or intention of rehabilitating his public image, he said. None of that is something I've ever been interested in doing, not now, not ever. And I think that the consequences of his actions that he's had mostly from the public, aside from like harassment, I think they've been warranted. So I kind of want to make that clear. The 34-year-old Page has been recognized by wrestling fans over the year for his willingness to engage in social matters. Even in speaking with the Takedown, he made note of what he believes is an abhorrent time in American history, acknowledging that it's hard to go about his daily life as, quote unquote, government forces are kidnapping and murdering people in the street. Yet the photo with Skrull brought criticism from around social media, and he says fans are entitled to feel however they may about the situation. Here's another quote from Hangman. If you hear all that and you listen to all that and you feel like maybe you wouldn't have done the same thing had you been in my shoes, or maybe you still feel uncomfortable being a fan of mine, or even if you've lost like the smallest amount of respect for me because of any of that, I would just want to say that I completely understand that, I can respect it and accept it. The Takedown and SI asked Page why, despite the graphic nature of the allegations and public response to them, he has decided to sustain a friendship with his former stablemate. He admitted that he has revisited how he feels about continued relationships since the photo emerged. Quote again, I guess who I am is when people treat me with kindness, I try to return it. I have never really wanted to get into that. And that's more or less why I have a private relationship with him. Not out of a sense of self-preservation or shame or something like that, but more or less, I just would never want that to be misconstrued as like an endorsement or an effort to rehabilitate someone's public image, something like that. But I guess I've just always thought that he's still a human being and that relationships are complicated, but they're still relationships and he's still a human being. Oh, brother, there's a lot to go over here. Because I've got a lot of thoughts, as you probably assume, and probably a lot of you as well. And feel free to go right ahead, chat, and share your thoughts on this. Kristen Ashley, nice to see you, darling. Welcome to the chat. Have we talked about TNA suing Gail Kim? No. Do you have a link? Please send me a link, darling. I have not seen that pop up at all. That's worrisome. They don't have money to pay their talent, but they have money to pay them. Okay. So there's a lot to break down here. Here's where I mostly stand. All right. This is where I mostly stand on this. I think this is a bad look for the Hangman overall, top to bottom. I think there's no two ways to go about it. Regardless on how you feel about the whole situation, objectively speaking, this is not a good look. Marty Scurll is one of the faces of the wrestling Me Too movement. Okay. He's one of the faces of the, he's, Joey Ryan being another one. And then you'll think of Marty Scurll, right? And to have Hangman just like, casually pop up on a picture that he took with Marty outside of what appears to be a very casual encounter that they had at a public restaurant. It's like, oh, wait a second. This is very strange because yes, indeed, the world of mainstream professional wrestling, as Hangman has been putting it, has not been accepting of Marty Scurll. Or forgiving and are not ready to accept Marty Scurll. Whenever you see Marty Scurll show up at an indie show, that show is typically met with derision and gets flamed essentially. But then again, people go, well, this is the lot that Scurll has created for himself, right? So the idea, and look, people online did not want to believe that Hangman was hanging out with Marty Scurll to the point that people were trying to find ways to say, oh, this photo is AI, right? Immediately, I saw tons of people going, this has got to be AI. This is absolutely AI. It has to be AI because they can't get over the hump that Hangman would do this. And I understand because Hangman is the wrestling embodiment of progressive values, right? He's the progressive, forward-thinking, non-regressive, accepting pillar of professional wrestling. Everyone loves the Hangman, right? And while it's not something like it's not something that he's outright performative with, because there's been other guys, right, who've been a little performative with their left-leaning politics. Despite that, he has been he has not been shy in hiding his support for various values, I guess, or what's the word? There's a word I'm looking for. His support for I guess social, political and social situations, and I'm completely dropping out of words. I don't know why. Like it's almost as if I've lost everything. I've completely forgotten every dictionary ever of all time. He's never been afraid to support causes, right, and to throw his weight behind things that he believes in. He's been very good with that online. It's even seeped into the show on a few occasions, and people gravitated to that, and I understand why. Because in a business where a lot of successful pro wrestlers are not that progressive, and a business that is always overshadowed with scumbags and scumbaggery. To a degree, you're like, this Hangman guy, this Adam Page guy is fucking refreshing. Former teacher, and he drives an electric car, and he's he's accepting of the LGBTQ community, LGBTQ plus. So there's a lot to like. So I think to a degree, the fact that this photo came out, I think the fact that this photo comes out does indeed tarnish somewhat that vision that people had him, where he will always do the right thing. He will always err on the side of the good guys, right? We will all remember the lovely Spanish promo that he cut at Grand Slam Arena Mexico last year, right? Where he basically said, look, basically saying, I grew up on a farm and there were immigrant workers that came to my farm, and he named them and he said they taught me Spanish and whatnot. And, and I've always been respectful about that. He was very good about that. He did the baby face thing. He's the baby face. He's the protagonist of AEW. So this is the kind of thing that you expect. It's whether he's fully conscious of it or not, this is what he projects. So, as Chad is pointing it out, there's a lot of people who get parasocial about this kind of stuff and create an idealistic version of this man who is flawed like any of us, right? Who will do things or has probably even done things that probably might disappoint people. Plus, look, I don't want to overgeneralize this, but this is also the truth. He's a pro wrestler. He's involved in pro wrestling. So even if he has never done anything as repugnant as, sleeping with minors, even if he's never done anything like that, he's surrounded in an environment where that kind of shit happens. And quite frankly, it's not just pro wrestling. I don't know if you've read a little something called the Epstein Files. It's not just pro wrestling that this shit exists, right? And I'm not trying to excuse anything. All I'm saying is that if we stay within the focus of pro wrestling without becoming too much at large, because let's contain the criticism to the environments that we are working in right now. Pro wrestling has always been a scummy business. It's always been a scummy business. It's been better, I guess, over the past few years. But there's still things that happen and you're like, oh, well, it's pro wrestling being pro wrestling, right? Now, if he goes out and he says, look, this happened before, I met Marty, did I expect Marty to be did I know about this? No, we have no reason to not believe him. There's no reason to not believe this. There's also reason to believe that he might have been willfully blind, maybe, because, Marty Scurll had a nickname and his name was Party Marty. And there's reasons for that. And not that I have necessarily more specific information and things that I can point to and say, oh, well, there was this, and this. It's just like, there are certain people that just end up in these types of situations by their own volition. Good on Paige if he stayed away from all of that and had was completely ignorant of that. But, maybe he was an upstanding citizen. But Marty had a reputation to begin with. He had a reputation. And it will always be curious to me. It will always be curious to me why all of the elite guys made the jump to go start off AEW, but not Marty. Is it because Marty felt that he had a secure job at Ring of Honor, didn't want to risk it? This all elite thing, maybe he thought was a little risky, or was it something else? I don't know. I'm just saying. I always thought it was curious that Marty Scurll, who was always a part of the elite, who was always in the BTE sketches. You go back to that era, he's there, he's in them, he's in the intro, along with Flip Gordon. They're all there. Still kind of curious. Anyway, I'm going off track a little bit here. So Hangman essentially creates this persona of himself, and this shakes some people up. It shakes some people up, and rightfully so. I think it's fine. I think people go a little too far. And that's often the case because they do have I think there is a big case when it comes to Hangman of a lot of parasocial relationships and people putting him on a pedestal that you should not be putting not just a human being on, but a pro wrestler on. You shouldn't do that. And then we end up in these types of situations here, where on one hand, there are people who are decrying what happened and saying poor judgment, Hangman, which I agree. And then there's other people that are brushing it under the, just wanting to brush it all away, saying, it doesn't matter, it's fine. Hangman, it was a lapse in judgment and whatnot. Oh, really? That's interesting. A lapse in judgment, as if Hangman all that well. Blue Sky user number 60,342. How do you know the Hangman? No one of us here knows Adam Page. We don't. So we don't know. I think he was as upfront as he could have been. And I have to applaud him for being very honest with it. Where he flat out said, yeah, no, I kept a relationship with Marty. I kept a relationship with Marty for a while. For 6 years, I think he says, right? Since the incident. Says, I check up on him. I call him. What is the nature of the relationship that he has with them, really? Is it just like checking up on you to make sure you're not contemplating ending it all? Making sure you're okay? Because Hangman says, after all, he's a human being. Maybe Hangman doesn't want to see him do something tragic and desperate. There are people who do that. I'm not trying to excuse it. I'm not trying to excuse what he did. What I'm trying to say here is that relationships are complicated because humans are complicated. And that's something I really believe. And I have trouble. I have trouble putting myself in the shoes of Hangman in this situation, where a close friend of his does something like that. I would probably be repulsed if my best friend or someone very close to me, family, did something really, really disgusting like that. Probably. But how far am I going to go? How far am I going to cut this person off? Am I going to abandon? There's so many factors. There's so many things that I can't, that it's just like, it's a weird hypothetical to create regardless. Oh, I would absolutely cut someone off. Oh, that's great. If you handle your real life relationships like a social media relationship where you can follow or unfollow people at will, all the more power to you. That's a level of consciousness that I don't have. The people that I love, that I really, really care about, and I kind of like to think that the people that I love and I really, really care about, that I have enough good judgment, especially when it comes to my friends, because, my kids, I fabricated them. But when it comes to my friends and the people that I've surrounded myself with, that I'm a good enough judge of character to be like, to divest myself of the people that, I'm kind of like, not really, or that I kind of feel are a little off or just don't jive with me. But that the people who are close to me, my true best friends, that they really do embody all of the values, everything that I truly am. So if something happens, my best friend gets into this type of trouble, it's revealed that he did the same thing. He slept with a minor. I don't know what I'd do. I would I think about it and it would repulse me. But would I cut him off? I don't know. I'm not going I'm sorry to say, folks, I'm not going to sit around and construct and put brain power into a hypothesis that might not ever happen to me. There are other people around me. There are some folks that I knew or that I know or, acquaintances and whatnot. If anything awful ever happened to them, it would be very easy for me to just cut them off. Just like, oh, sure. No, that's it. I'm done with that person. They can go fuck off, right? I'd be instantly done with these people. But the difference here in this circumstance is that Hangman's a public figure, and so is Marty, and Marty is vilified. He is effectively blacklisted from most respectable pro wrestling organizations. Want nothing to do with him. So why would he entertain this type of relationship? Well, we don't know. Why would he allow himself to be taken? Why would he let Marty take a picture of them, both of them together, in public? Well, again, it's hard to say. Maybe Hangman thought that this just wouldn't be published. He kind of hints at it in the interview too. Where he wasn't expecting this photo to go public. He says it. We didn't read the exact quote, but he says it in the interview. He didn't quite expect the photo to go public, and he wondered why. And that, for me, that's a big question mark that I have. Why would Marty do this? Why would he pull that up onto Instagram? He knows. Marty Scurll is fully aware of his standing in the world of professional wrestling because he can't get jobs, because he can't get booked. He's fully aware. He knows, absolutely knows what kind of little stinger this would do to Hangman if he were to post the picture. So why'd he do it? Why would this guy, with whom Hangman says he has entertained a relationship with for the past 6 years, past the event, probably one of seldom people that haven't been completely cut off, that didn't cut Marty completely off, right? Why would Marty turn around and post this picture knowing full well that he is poison? Why would he do that? And I don't accept a response like, oh, well, maybe Marty didn't realize. No, Marty fucking realizes it. Otherwise, he would be on national television wrestling every week. If not in AEW, in WWE. This is a guy that not even WWE wants to touch. Okay? Jesus fucking Christ, people. He knows. So why did he do it? And Hangman said in the interview, oh, well, since then I've been reconsidering my feelings in regards to this, which again leads me to believe that Hangman was quite angry and did not expect this and was like, what? Probably sent a very angry text to Martin Scurll saying, why the fuck did you post that picture? Now he's like, why did I even consider this guy as a friend on whatever level he was? Why did I entertain a relationship with this guy that the entire world has ostracized? Was I being too naive? Was I being too much of a good guy? I don't know, because we don't know what the relationship is. We don't know what's going on in Hangman's head. But Hangman, I felt in this interview, just let it slip very subtly that he was very angry and he is reconsidering what he thinks about Marty Scurll. Probably just like, wow, you fucking piece of shit. Why would you post that picture? And again, I will not accept the response that says, where Marty says, oh, well, it's just two friends hanging out. No. Marty Scurll might be a lot of things. Stupid, he is not. He's not dumb. And he knows. He knows in what situation he is. And pro wrestlers are just Sometimes you just don't know what's going through their heads. You know, it's like when pictures leaked of Shinsuke Nakamura having trained at Team Vision Dojo, and you've got fucking Chase Rance right there in the picture, you know, of the class, and Shinsuke's there too. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And again, it's also plausible to just be like, Shinsuke has no idea about Chase and Rance and what he's done. And it's just like, I need to go train somewhere. And someone who is friends with Rance says, hey, Team Vision Dojo, they've got a great gym and whatnot. And Shinsuke goes, all right, great. I'll go try it out. And that's all there is to it, you know? What I appreciate in this situation is that Hangman is not trying to butter it up. He's not trying to find excuses. He's not saying, oh, you know, I burnt the bridge, but you know, we tried to reconcile or whatever. He was upfront about it. There was no point in trying to lie. I think he understood that and was like, well, I did this, and you know, I've been in contact with him since the event, and just since it all came out, and just hanging out, you know, and I check on him from time to time. And Marty used to be a friend. Look, I'm not going to lie. Marty used to be, and all of this is very transparent and very Hangman-like, right? And you can't take that away. Now, is it weird? Yes, I think it's kind of weird. I think it's kind of weird from an outsider perspective. I have no idea the level of relationship that he has with Marty Scurll. And that's the point of that's kind of the point that I was trying to make when I was talking about my own position. If one of my really good friends did something like this, it would be really great if life was extremely binary and black and white, but it's not. There's so much nuance to everything, and humans are really complicated fucking machines. And sometimes we don't think straight. Sometimes we do stupid things. Sometimes we do great things. Sometimes we do bad things. But humanity is just a mess of, of cells constantly dying and regenerating, and a mess of chemicals and hormones just fucking with our brains all the time. That's what we are. What am I doing here exactly? Am I forgiving Hangman? I don't have to forgive him for anything. He's not asking me for my forgiveness. And he shouldn't. I'm just a fan. I'm just a dope. I got nothing. I've got nothing I don't have to say, oh, well, I forgive Hangman. Forgive him for what? He made a choice. I'm here observing it. I think it's weird. I think it's weird that he's hanging out with a guy that has basically burnt every bridge he has in professional wrestling because of things that he's done. But outside of that, I think it's weird. I think it's weird that Hangman brought it back up, that he agreed to talk about it again when it was pretty much over. I think everyone had sort of moved on from it. We were ready to just chalk that up to, well, everyone loves Hangman, so we'll move on. I think that's strange. Of course, he was asked by a journalist, so, he responded. I think he did a good job responding, but it ends up all being very muddled and weird. So no, I don't think Hangman Adam Page should be out there professing that he has that he's had a strong relationship with Marty Scurll post Me Too as a public figure. No, I think that's not good. Do I think this is going to harm him in any way? No. No. I don't think this is going to harm him in any way. No way, shape, or form. So there you go. Let's see. Is this equivalent to those wrestlers hanging out with Vince? I find the comparisons between Marty Scurll and Vince, which came up quite a bit in this situation, to be dopey. Because Vince McMahon, first of all, has a history, an admitted history of being horrible with women, absolutely horrible with women, having them sign NDAs so that none of the nasty shit he'd do would come out, and is being taken to court by one of his victims. And he has, it has been a systematic series of abuses. It's not, look, both things are terrible, awful acts. Don't get me wrong. But Vince, like, if we want to start grading this, Vince is on a completely different level than what Marty Scurll did. Like, I don't want to recount the details. I have them in my mind, but I don't feel like talking about what Marty Scurll and the 16-year-old did. Okay. And I don't want to talk about how the age of consent in the UK is 16. What the fuck are you, a grown adult man hanging out with teenagers regardless, right? It's like, it's all this bullshit. But Vince is, he made it his identity. He's sex trafficked, Jesus Christ. So what are we doing? So is this equivalent to those wrestlers hanging out with Vince? I think Vince is a disgusting human being. I think he's a vile, disgusting person. And he's being taken to court. So if you want to associate with Vince, if you want to be, Mark Henry going on his dopey podcast and saying, it's all boys will be boys type of situation. No, it's complete bullshit. And it's a completely other, on such an complete and other level of disgusting. And he's never faced any consequences. Marty's career is effectively destroyed. Vince is still going around and he's, going in meetings and he's, he has his new venture and whatever the fuck. Fuck Vince McMahon. It's not the same. I don't think I could be a wrestling fan if I wasn't able to heavily separate the art from the artist. Especially if you were a wrestling fan in the 80s and 90s and even into the 2000s in some circumstances. Particularly. Propping people up on this imaginary pedestal based on imaginary things is bad, especially for anyone famous. Doubly so for wrestling. Is there just an influx of new fans? I don't know if it's an influx of new fans. I feel like everyone does this regardless of the fandom or whatever you're a fan of. People just do this with actors and musicians and you're just like, stop it. Stop creating this impossible. Stop trying to create this impossible standard for these human beings to live up to, right? Now, you can absolutely counter argument with me and say, Warren, I don't think it's an impossible standard to expect humans to not associate with dirtbags. I agree. I completely agree. I don't think it's an unreasonable expectation to be like, well, if I'm friends with Marty Scurll, I'm cutting him off, right? When's the last time you heard Cody Rhodes say, yeah, I call Marty Scurll every day? Pretty sure that's not happening anymore. But again, it's just like, but nonetheless, it's like the relationships, again, it's just complicated and messy. And there are probably very, very deep historical reasons for Hangman's decision process throughout all of this. And we only see it through a very detached binary lens. And that's all we can do with it, really. Because we're not privy to all the information, nor should we be. Hangman doesn't have to spill his guts out to try to make us understand this situation. And we don't have to understand the situation if we don't want to. We can outright condemn him and say, this is awful. I understand. I understand everything. I understand every point of view. It might be a little fence sitting on my part, but I understand everything. I myself, my tendency is like, bad move, Hangman. I think you should not have done this. I think you should have, especially when your position as a top guy in pro wrestling started to rise up, you should have just called Marty Scurll and say, look, buddy, we can't be friends anymore. I can't play with you anymore. And you know why. And whose fault is that? It's Marty's. This, like, you can absolutely make the argument and say, why would Hangman allow this friendship to continue, which could potentially be career ruinous for him? I'm like, yes, you are right. Why would he? It doesn't make sense. I also have the emotional intelligence to understand that there are probably good reasons why he did continue. Good for Hangman anyway. Maybe not good for you, but good enough for him. And again, if you're disappointed, that's your prerogative. And I think it's okay to be disappointed in him. I think it's okay to be like, I lost a little respect for him. That's fine. Again, consequences of actions. It's all right. I think it's a combination of new fans who don't know the horrific stuff people bragged about openly in shoot vids. Jesus Christ, ain't that the truth? A change in social mores, pylon culture, and parasocial relationships. People wrap their identity into performers and crave performers to display their personal beliefs more than they used to. This is all true. I mean, Hangman is this, like I said, he's this progressive icon, and all he's done really is just, I drive electric cars. He's worn trans right t-shirts in the past. He cut the workers' rights promo. He's just doing things that seem natural to him, based on his value set. And then people are constructing an altar to this and constructing a vision of Hangman that probably goes way beyond what he is and what he intended to do. Somebody correct me, but didn't Marty get to work CMLL in the last 6 years? Was it CMLL or was it AAA? Because I do not quite remember. Let's go take a look. Oh, I might as well put it up here. What am I doing? We'll do it all together. Uh, 2019. Yeah, see, he would have still been in the good graces here. So it's from this point on. So of course, yes, he would have worked CMLL because of the Ring of Honor relationship and New Japan and all of that. So that would have been normal. But see, he worked the Crash. Then see, I was right. He did work AAA a couple of times. Laredo Kid and Mecha Wolf. And Alberto El Patron, Tralistico Pagano. Oh boy, he was in very similar company there. Daga El Texano Jr. as well. Did 2 shots for them. That's about it. After this, it's all like the all scummer promotions. What is ACW? ACW Caribbean Claws. Baja Bash. Oh wait, this is all Caribbean wrestling. This is the wrestling promotion that did the Topless Vodka show at WrestleMania week last year, right? That was them, right? Wasn't that all? Wasn't that All Caribbean Wrestling? Wasn't that the gimmick? Wasn't that the promotion? And he hasn't worked. He hasn't worked in 2026 so far. So, you know, that's not to claim that anyone can't watch him because of it. That's not to claim that anyone who can't watch him because of it is wrong. I just would have stopped watching wrestling a long time ago if I hadn't been comfortable with watching people that I think are bad people. And there's a lot of bad people in pro wrestling. And I mean, there's people that are openly bad in pro wrestling and still have high paying jobs and people adore them. You know, just look at Paul Heyman. I'm wondering if they had a falling out and that's why he did it. I mean, that is a plausible theory. Wasn't Rance involved in the first Fight for the Fallen? Wasn't it something about them using Team Vision Dojo rings? I can't quite remember. Or was it early Dynamites? I can't. I'm getting my. Everything's a bit of a gray blob right now, but I feel like there was something where they brought out. One night they used rings that belonged to Team Vision Dojo, and that caused quite a stir. And then people were like, "Oh, you know, Kenny and Chase and Rance know each other and they get along," you know, type of situation. And again, Chase and Rance is a convicted pedophile. He is on the register. So again, this is another level. This is something worse. All forms of art are littered with people who have been problematic historically. It's not a good idea to parasocial any public artist or figure. No one, don't raise anyone on a pedestal. No one. Just don't do it. Except for me. I'm super good and clean, and I've never done anything wrong ever. All right, let's see this Gail Kim thing here that we were talking about. Thank you, Carlos, for the link. Got some breaking news here, I guess. An article from Fightful. TNA files a lawsuit against Gail Kim. TNA parent company Anthem Wrestling Exhibitions LLC filed a lawsuit against TNA Hall of Famer Gail Kim before the Nashville Chancery Court in Tennessee on January 10. According to PW Insider, the lawsuit stems from Kim informing the company that after she was let go in March 2025, she, quote, believes she holds legal claim against AWE for violations of the Florida Private Whistleblower Act, unquote. The alleged violations are not listed in the lawsuit. What? Anthem is bringing the lawsuit forward as they are alleging that based on the nature of Kim's contract with the company, that all issues between the two would be governed by Tennessee law. The lawsuit states the following things. Yeah, I need context here. I don't know what's going on. Kim entered into a services agreement contract in September 2022 that included, quote, talent relations, match production, and performer services. Kim also agreed to identify and support new revenue, business, and growth opportunities for AWE. Oh, that's Anthem. Anthem, right? AWE. Anthem Wrestling Exhibitions. Okay, I was like, AWE, what the okay, now I'm sorry. The agreement expired at they should have put, you know what they should have done here in the article? When they wrote Anthem Wrestling Exhibitions, you know, then what you do if you're going to use the acronym then for the rest of the article, then you should at least put in parentheses here AWE so that we know this is what you're talking about. Because then we start talking about AWE for violations. Like, what the fuck is AWE? What the hell is going on? Okay. But like, that's something that should have been done here. The booking agreement for Kim was non-exclusive and that she had the right to provide wrestling and other entertainment services to other customers, quote unquote, based on certain limitations, including an agreement to not provide wrestling services to any competitors. The booking agreement stated that Kim, quote, will be at all times an independent contractor and not an employee or agent of AWE. Therefore, Kim will not participate in any benefit plans or programs that AEW provides or may provide to its employees, including but not limited to pension, profit sharing, medical, dental, workers' compensation, occupational injury, life insurance, and vacation or sick benefits. That sounds so much fun. Kim worked primarily in talent relations and production, but did wrestle on one occasion, worked from her home, was not provided an office space, and did not work for the company full-time as she continued to engage in other quote-unquote independent projects, including the Amazing Race Canada and the Traders Canada reality series. She was on the Traders? I didn't know that. I know she did the Amazing Race with Giselle Shaw. I thought, she said this was an independent project because they really didn't hide the fact that they were professional wrestlers working for Impact Wrestling. That's very weird. They also stated she received a 1099 for all payments and would receive another for her work that ended in 2025. Kim's working relationship with the company ended after a strategic decision to restructure, which led Kim and two other independent contractors not having their contracts renewed, as well as the termination of 5 employees. It is also noted, quote, in connection with AWE's restructuring, the former president of the sports group for AWE Sports and Entertainment, Anthony Ciccione, stepped down from his role in May 2025, unquote. They're also stating since Kim was an independent contractor that she does not have any, quote, legally cognizable claims, unquote, against them based on Florida law. Jesus Christ. Because of course, this independent contract bullshit is exactly what I just called it. Bullshit. Can you believe that? Fucking hell. They're like working for talent relations. Oh, well, we're not going to give you benefits. We're not going to give you medical or dental insurance. You've got no rights in Florida. Anthem is asking the court to declare that Kim was indeed an independent contractor, which would negate any of her claims that she has threatened to bring under the Florida Private Whistleblower Act, the Florida Civil Rights Act, and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and that their company, quote, has a real legally protectable interest at stake, namely its rights under the services agreement and the booking agreement, which it negotiated and for which it paid Kim, unquote. TNA is seeking an award of reasonable attorney's fees and court costs. Court records do not yet indicate whether Kim has been served with the lawsuit, nor are these court dates listed. Okay. Why are they suing her? But okay, so they're suing her because she believes she holds legal claims against AEW for violations of the Florida Private Whistleblower Act. But we don't know what those are because has there be, I mean, this is probably not a link that goes to. Yeah, no, this is Carlos Silva explaining why he let Gail Kim go. There's a chunk of information that we're missing here to really like get the full grasp is what are the legal claims she holds against Anthem for violation of the Florida Private Whistleblower Act. That's the part that we're missing. Has she filed this? Or I don't know what's going on here. Like I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it. Basically, they're suing her, but what did she bring forth? What is the nature of her legal claims? Owens, thank you. I'm glad you're here because you know the legal laws. She's sued under a statute they claim requires she to be an employee, and they're claiming she's a contractor. I see. Okay, so so the statute, the Florida Private Whistleblower Act, is something you can invoke or file things under, whatever whatever the correct terminology is, if you are an employee of an organization. And they're basically saying she was an employee, she was an independent contractor, so she, whatever she's trying to do here is not valid. I understand. That was the bit that I was that was missing for me. Was that she's, like you said, she used the statute they claim requires her to be an employee, and they're claiming she's a contractor. Okay. Just my assumption from reading other articles about cases and law. I know. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, D. Owens. That makes sense. That makes sense. Because I was like, wait, I don't understand what they're suing her about. But then have we been aware that Gail Kim has filed anything under a whistleblower act? I'm not aware of that. Are you folks aware of that? I guess I'll keep an eye on this. This could be very interesting. We'll see how this all develops then. I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. Thank you, Kristen, for pointing this out to me. We'll see how things go. All right. How about some contract news? Contract news. I like the contract news. There's a lot of contract news. Lots of stuff happening in New Japan specifically still. And we're not quite done. I still hear whispers and stuff, so I'll try to share as much information that I know of that I can. Chase Owens has re-signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I know all of us were waiting with bated breath as to whether the crown jewel was going to re-sign with New Japan Pro Wrestling or not. I know you were all just like on pins and needles on the edge of your seat. Well, the current House of Torture member and former longtime Bullet Club member revealed the news on Friday on Twitter, writing, "I have re-signed with NJPW. See you soon, Japan." And you've got the tweet right there. So good for Chase Owens. Now the funny thing here, is that it is not New Japan that made the announcement. It's not the New Japan account that made the announcement or whatnot. He just dropped that on social media and said, "Well, I resigned. See you soon." And now you're like, "Oh, Chase, I almost feel bad for you now." How long is he signed for and whatnot? Well, I mean, listen, from what I understand, there's really there's two types of deals in New Japan. You get the yearly deal where you get the monthly salary, right? And most of the time these are 1 year deals. And if you're a really big star, you'll get multiple years. But typically it's on a year-to-year basis, which is why there's a contract season in Japan. And it's usually the bigger names who get these deals, right? Then the other type of deal that you have is you get paid per tour. So basically you get a fixed amount per show per week, essentially. That's pretty much how it goes, from my understanding. I'm willing to bet 10 Canadian rubber bucks that Chase Owens is on the tour to tour contract. I am willing to lay out a John McDonald, because that's who's on, right? Isn't it? No, is it John McDonald or Wilfred Laurier who's on the $10 bill? I don't know. I haven't seen like actual currency tender, legal tender in such a long time. I don't remember anymore. I know it's purple. Anyway, maybe it's just a thing where it's like, oh yeah, you know, they re-signed me for a tour. Anyway, good tidings to Chase Owens, right? Good tidings to Chase Owens. We've got, I mean, this is, everyone knows by now, but Brian Alvarez had noted earlier this week that Clark Connors had signed with AEW. I believe, did Clark Connors get the graphic? Did he get the graphic? I don't remember. Clark Connors is All Elite. I don't think so, right? Yeah, no, we'd be seeing this everywhere. Anyway, so the rumor going around is that he's been signed. Quite frankly, I think it's a safe assumption. He's being featured on television right now. He's been on Dynamite 2 weeks. No, he was on Collision on Saturday. Now Dynamite this week. You know, so he's been on back-to-back AEW programming. Let's be real here. The guy got signed. He's gonna hang out with his girlfriend. And quite frankly, I have to say, so far, I like what I'm seeing. I really enjoyed the Darby Allin match. And I thought he had, I talked about it on Monday, but I thought he had like, he projected so much more in that match than he did at any given moment in New Japan. And I liked his role. I liked his role with Darby. I think he's very charismatic. There might be something there. I'm not sitting here and saying that he's going to be a world champion or whatnot, but I think Clark Connors may have done a significantly positive move for his career. If anything, he looks reinvigorated right now, and he wants to show his boss that he's good for the job, right? So that's something. But I'm kind of like, cool. I'm okay with this. So good for him if he is indeed signed. But I think it's pretty safe to assume that he is. I was pretty sure, unless I just didn't refresh. There we go. Hiromu Takahashi. I think this is pretty big news. Hiromu Takahashi leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling after careful consideration and discussions with New Japan Pro Wrestling management. Hiromu Takahashi, who has been a long-standing member of the New Japan roster, will leave New Japan Pro Wrestling. New Japan. We apologize to the fans for the sudden nature of this announcement. Hiromu's final scheduled appearance with New Japan will be at the New Beginning in Osaka on February 11. New Japan Pro Wrestling wishes Hiromu Takahashi the very best in his future activities and invites fans to show support on his remaining appearances with New Japan. Yeah, I mean, it was sort of breaking news on Monday when we were talking about it. When I was doing the stream, and then someone just like pointed it out and said, "Hey, did you hear that Hiromu's leaving?" And I'm like, "No." Like, it was kind of breaking news. So I sort of, I mentioned it, right? And yeah, it would appear that his last match is going to be against Masatori Yasuda. And the interesting thing is that the young lion, right? And I think that the post on NJPW 1972 indicated that that his last match was going to be on February 11th, but it's all likely. It's likely that he's going to be wrestling for the last time on Sunday against the Young Lion, and that's straight out of the mouth of the New Japan World account on Twitter. So his last match might happen on this Road 2 show, and look, when the rumors started going around for Hiromu, I said it then, and I will maintain it now. All of these departures from New Japan, all of this exodus that's going on right now, it's all good. It's all very good, right? It's all extremely positive things for the roster that's left behind, for a bunch of guys there to just move in and take these spots. Hiromu has been the centerpiece of the junior division for years, are encroaching onto a decade, I'd say, right? He's won the best of Super Juniors so many times, and there's always a part of all of these tournaments and these stuff where these things where, even though they want to push new people, there's always like, well, what do we do with Hiromu? We can't just drop Hiromu. It's Hiromu. Hiromu's a star and whatnot. And he started to feel more like a crutch to the junior division rather than anything else. And the idea is that I even heard I heard multiple times from a lot of people saying that Hiromu wanted to go heavyweight, and he wanted to go heavyweight, and New Japan didn't want him. They wanted him to stay, the ace of the junior division. Plus, there was the idea that if you go heavyweight, then that comes with a pay raise, and New Japan is careful with its money. They're not broke, they're not bankrupt, but they're careful with their money. But then it turns around, and I turn around and I hear a completely other different set of things where it's like, no, New Japan pitched to Hiromu to be a heavyweight, and Hiromu turned it down. He turned it down multiple times. He says, no, at this stage of my career, I'm going to stay a junior, and I'm going to see this junior thing through. That's why, he's going off. He's going to Noah, and he's wrestling in the junior division. All right. That's interesting. So yeah, you see Chad is mentioning it, right? I'm surprised AEW didn't sign Hiromu. Well, we don't know what he's doing yet. I think the obvious landing spot for him is going to be Pro Wrestling Noah. Maybe go do some things with his pals in the Los Tranquilo de Japón, right? With Tetsuya Naito and Bushi. But there's a lot of rumors going around that he's going to that he's heading to WWE. Which shocks me as much as you guys, but there are that is something that's been going around. It was it was brought up earlier this week by a Japanese fan blog, which a lot of people took for a site that has actual sources, but the fan site was basically reporting off of an interview that Drew McIntyre gave Tokyo Sports about wrestling in the Tokyo Dome and Hiromu and all of that. And people then it was picked up and aggregated quite a bit, and people were like, nah, this guy doesn't have any sources. But I've started again, like these are not my, I've started hearing that maybe, just maybe, Hiromu might be indeed considering to go to World Wrestling Entertainment. Look, it is all so it's all there's nothing concrete right now. These are very dark whispers, right? It's not even reports. It's not people reporting this. It's just like very, very backroom. Oh, I might have heard this. Oh, I think this. What I'm trying to say is that maybe there's some legs to this Hiromu to WWE thing. Maybe. You know. And AEW signing him. Well, again, maybe. That might still be in the cards. Right? He had that little program last year, which was pretty good, right? Around Forbidden Door time. Showed up on Dynamite and whatnot. He had made a good impression. You know, he people were like, oh, all right. Solid, good guy, you know, good impression overall, all around. But we'll see, you know, it's like, Hiromu's he's an unpredictable guy at the same time, and he'll do whatever he wants. He'll do what suits him best. But, you know, wherever he ends up going, I'm sure he'll be fine. And quite honestly, it's like, he's the kind of guy that will 100% benefit from leaving. It'll be a nice little rejuvenation of his career. He was not motivated in New Japan anymore, and so on and so forth. And we're opening up spots for new guys at the same time. So this is all, it's all positive stuff. It's all positive. It's all positive stuff. And we're not quite done with contract signings. You know, there's still Dave Finlay out there that there's rumors that are still circulating. There's old Driller Maloney, Dan Maloney as well. Gabe Kidd, my guess is that Gabe Kidd is going to dual contract this New Japan AEW stuff. I think he's going to do that because he really, really, really likes New Japan. Even though they did jack shit with him last year, and if I were in his shoes, I'd be super pissed off at them, right? Coming off of a banger match of the year, starting things off right there, I would have done that, right? I would have been so upset if New Japan had done nothing with me. I'm like, fuck you guys. I'm giving my heart and soul for you guys, and this is how you repay me. So I think he's going to do the dual contract thing. Look, for sure, he's got some kind of deal with Tony Khan. He's on Dynamite. He's taking up real estate on Dynamite. He had a pay-per-view match at World's End. He's in a feud with Darby Allin. He's signed in some way, shape, or form. He has some kind of agreement set up. I don't think he's done with New Japan. I think he's going to do a dual contract thing. I think it might be smart of him too to keep his options open like that as well. So good for him. But yeah, we're all kind of waiting on David Finlay. Common knowledge would expect him to be in. Common sense would have you think that he's leaving to WWE. That would be, but no one knows. Honestly, no one knows what David Finlay is doing right now. But we're getting towards the end of this very exciting contract season. Darby will destroy the Unbound company. Give me Suji versus Darby. That'd be fun, honestly. That would be really fun. Mr. Warren, that's me. Did you know American Idol reached out to New Japan to get Taichi, but got rejected saying, I don't work the States? What? What? I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, yeah, Taichi doesn't want to work the U.S., but American Idol. AW1, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Also a member of the channel. To be honest, I don't get the appeal of Hiromu. I don't watch New Japan, mind you, but I feel he's had plenty of matches in AEW to show me something, anything. Well, yeah, I mean, There was a time where Hiromu Takahashi was probably the most exciting junior on planet Earth. And because he was completely reckless and, just absolutely completely reckless. And then he breaks his neck in a match with Dragon Lee. And then he takes the time off and he rehabs his neck and he comes back and he's not the same. He doesn't wrestle the same because the guy, almost died in a wrestling ring. But you can still see moments of spark from Hiromu, but they're few and far between now. He's very unmotivated in New Japan. And then he turns around and he goes and he becomes GHC junior champion in Noah, in Pro Wrestling Noah. And then he goes and wrestles Akusa in Noah. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And has an extraordinary match with him. Like something where you're like, oh, Hiromu can still go. So he's also one of these guys that, knows when to turn it on, knows when to turn it off. Maybe, he gets confronted with American style wrestling and he's like, oh, we got to dial this back or whatnot. It's like, could be a bunch of things. Hiromu, but like you go back to watch some, but you go back and you watch some Hiromu Takahashi from, pre 2019. And he is just terrific. Like he is, he'd be called the Time Bomb. That's his nickname for a reason because he's just nuts. He's just absolutely nuts. He's terribly charismatic on top of that. He's an extremely charismatic guy. Great crowd connection. Fit in perfectly as the junior for the LIJ crew. Well, Bushi was there first, but it's Bushi, Did you see Tetsuya Naito commenting on these departures saying there needs to be an investigation? Yes. But I mean that's just Tetsuya Naito saying bullshit. There's no grand investigation to be had, I don't think. These are just people whose contracts are running out and they're choosing not to renew. That's all. That's fine. Oh, we're getting up there. We're getting late. Ah, shit. There's still so much stuff. Let's preview Stardom Supreme Fight 2026 that's happening in Osaka, Japan this weekend, February 7, 2026 at the Ideon Arena, Osaka. It's the anniversary show, 15 years of Stardom, no Hat Man to be found. Big main event for a big show. Saya Kamitani defending the World of Stardom Championship, which happens to be a singles title, against Starlight Kid. And they've been heating this one up. Big time. Saya even unmasked Starlight Kid to big ass reaction from the crowd. And oof. This might be the big feud of the winter leading into spring here. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm not saying that this is what they're going to do, but right now, I would argue that Saya and Starlight Kid are the two biggest stars in Stardom. They're the two. They're at the top of the roster. Both of these. And I would argue that they are not, this is not going to be a one and done. Here, my gut is telling me that they might do something akin to what they did with Saya and Tom Nakano last year, where, they had the retirement match, Tom's retirement match in February. But it drew so well and people were so into it and had, and drew money that they were like, well, we have to run this again. So they sort of stretched this out. It was like, well, I'm going to get another retirement match. And then that led to the big retirement match that everyone loved and, that made match of the year lists and whatnot. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to talk about retirements here, but I wouldn't be surprised if this match here goes time or to a non-decision, that we don't get a definitive winner here. And then that leads us to a rematch where it becomes a title versus mask match to make the stakes even bigger. And quite frankly, I'd be very excited about that. Like, that would be some major fucking stakes. That would be huge, because then you're like, something, there is a kind of like with Saya versus Tom, where you're like, there's a big outcome that happens here. Either Saya loses the belt, or Tom hits the bricks and goes home. And that's really exciting. And, people love Starlight Kid. They love Saya too, but of course she's the heel. Like, I think there's legitimate money in drawing this one out. So again, I would not be surprised that the championship match, the World of Stardom title match at the show goes time. We don't get a definitive winner. And then we go to a rematch, and the rematch is title versus mask. I'd be fucking into that. That would be one of the highlights, early highlights of the year if they decide to do that, let's say in March or April or whenever. I think that has a lot of potential. And I'm convinced it will also draw money. So I'm looking forward to that. Konami will be defending the Wonder of Stardom Championship against Amy Sore. That should be a tremendous fight. I like Konami. I like her enough. This should be tremendous. It should be very good. BMI 2000 versus the Stars tag team of Hanan and B. Priestley. BMI 2000 are the Goddess of Stardom Championships, the tag team titles. So, Hanan's got to carry B. Priestley through this match. So, interesting. I like BMI 2000 enough. I know that a lot of Stardom fans are really not into them, but I like them. They're very different from everyone else on the card. Like, that's tremendous. Very excited for that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Not necessarily the match that's getting me the most excited. A 10 women elimination tag team match. We had a bunch of people in here, and these are the rules here. Participants will face in a 10-minute singles match with the loser eliminated. The last woman standing wins the match. And it's going to be Maika Hanako, Zina Wakatsukiyama, and Rian versus Suzu Suzuki, Rina Yamashita, Itsu Aoki, and Akira Korugane. So we'll see how all that goes. Shuri versus Saki Kashima. Yeah, all right. How bad is Saki Kashima going to get beaten up? How bad is she going to get the piss kicked out of her? Let's go. Interestingly enough, not for the IWGP World Women's, not a world, it's just IWGP Women's title. Interestingly enough. Then we got a 4-way tag team match with Saya Ida and Yuria Hime of Stars versus Natsupoi and Saori Anu versus Izumi and Miyu Amasaki versus Hazuki and TBA. Lots of very talented wrestlers that I really like in that match. Maki Ito will be taking on Aya Sakura for Ito's Kawaii of Kawaii Championship. I'm not a Maki Ito fan all that much. I think I used to enjoy Maki Ito quite a bit. And then at some point, the act never changed and I got bored. And I don't think she's she's an average pro wrestler. How about that? And yeah, when she decided, when Stardom signed her, I was like, oh, like I was happy. I don't watch much Joshi, admittedly. So when she was squirreled away in TJPW, I was like, that's fine. I will watch choice matches in TJPW, but I won't, I don't tune in every show. I don't watch every show, but particularly when I hear that Miyu Yamashita is having great matches, I'm like, all right, that I'm interested in. When I hear Shoko has a good match, I'm like, all right, I'm into that too. I don't hear often that Maki Ito had a good match, so I don't watch much Maki Ito. So now she's in Stardom, a promotion that I do watch. So, okay. I mean, all right. I mean, good for her. Good for her for, again, like I've, good for her for, good for her for heading out of, for getting out of TJPW, for, stretching her legs. I'm not that I said that wrong, as if TJPW was a dump, and it's not, but more like she had done everything she could do there. She had hit a ceiling, maybe creatively in a rut. It's like, let me go do something somewhere else. And she gets picked up by the biggest Joshi promotion in Japan. All right. Good for her. Like, legitimately, it's what I say about New Japan, and talent turnover and whatnot, and how good it is. Good for her. Good for her, But I mean, it's fine if this is the match order and she's second from the top, second from the bottom. That's where she belongs. It's fine by me. You know what I mean? It's like it'll be a nifty little 8-minute match or so, right? 8, 9, maybe 10-minute match. This is gonna be, she's gonna do her crying thing, and whatever. She'll do her gimmicks, and then we'll move on with our lives. I don't know. That's just how I feel. Look, between her and practically everyone else on this show, I will take everyone else on this show. Like, that's just me. Of course, right? Personally speaking, this entire card is filled with wrestlers that I like, to love, to adore. And then there's Maki Ito, who I'm like, I'm at best, I'm indifferent on. And at worst, she's wrestling Mickie James at WrestleCon. I think that's the latest Maki Ito match I've seen, if you want to believe that. I think that's the latest Maki Ito match I've watched. It's the WrestleMania, WrestleCon, Mark Hitchcock show match, where she did that appallingly insulting and awful wrestling match with Mickie James, who I entertain. I will never forget that. I will never forget how appalled I was by what the fuck she was doing. And Rina versus Fuachan. And look, Fuachan, I am much more into her. Like, this is fun. The Fuachan story continues. This I'm into. I'll take her over Maki Ito any day. So this is a solid show, folks. This is a very good show. I'm excited to watch this. This is a loaded, well put together, no nonsense, hard hitting show. Maybe the BMI versus Hanan and B Priestley matches. Maybe I'm like, that's the kind of the one where I go, maybe, but the rest, got a lot of good stuff here. Nah, this is gonna rock. I'm very excited. I'm very excited, and I said it at the start of the show, but I will get around to watching it this weekend. I will not be watching it live, but when I do, I will review it, and the review will be available in early access to members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel here on YouTube. So become a member today or later today, but not tomorrow. It'll be too late. Why? Why will it be too late? Because you'll forget. You'll just forget. Not because you're stupid, because you're a busy person, because you got a lot going on and you've got more to think about than a membership on, some rando YouTube channel. So it's just gonna slip your mind because you've got so much on your plate already. I understand that. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. That's why you should do it today. I think I'm getting tired, guys. I've liked Mikey Ito and Stardom so far. Well, that's praise. I'll see how this match turns. Look, maybe I'll do the review and I'll be eating a big old serving of crow. And honestly, that's all. I have no issues with that. And in fact, I welcome it. I welcome it when wrestlers beat my expectations, especially when the expectations are low. If they can do anything above it, then it's like, fantastic. And if she meets my expectations, well, and so be it. And I'll tell you all about it. If nothing else, Stardom is behind her since she re-recorded her theme song and she'll debut it on Saturday. Tremendous. It takes two to tango, though. Mickey was dog shit at that. Aye, exactly. It takes two to tango. Mickey James was appallingly bad. And Ito was in there too, being appallingly bad. So there you go. And I'm saying this on a show that had Minoru Suzuki versus Butterbean, which was another appallingly bad match. Just incredibly bad. The thing about Maki Ito and Stardom is there's so much good wrestling that feels ephemeral and becomes good wrestling happening in front of me. Give me some characters. Sure. Like I get it. I understand, I understand what niche she's going to fill. I really do, Just like, see, on the opposite, it's like, see, I like me a good character, but that good character has to deliver, right? You can give me a good character, but if he or she is not able to deliver in the ring, then I'm gonna be like, But then again, it depends. Like, it's not a one size fits all type of situation either. I'll be the first to say, like, you don't need to be a work rate phenomenon to get over in pro wrestling. You can absolutely get over based entirely on your charisma or your shtick. We've seen it time and time again, right? So it's when you have the total package, when you're a Ric Flair, those are the instances that you perk up and listen, right? But look at John Cena. Look at John Cena. That's exactly that's exactly the thing. Anyway. But if I'm entertained, I'll be entertained. And ultimately that's all I want. It's like Maki for me is the kind of wrestler that gets that when they show up, they constantly have two strikes. Like they're swimming upstream to get me on their side. That's all. And the thing is that she might do it. She might I might finish this show and be like, okay, I am all in on 2026 Maki Ito. It could be. I'd be shocked, but it could be. Tony Khan has blocked Evil, Toriano, Johnny Gargano, and now Maki Ito. Has he blocked Johnny Gargano? Did he say that he doesn't like Johnny Gargano? The others, yeah, Evil and Yano, sure. Hey, Jordan from Canada, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for popping in on the stream. I appreciate it. Really, Butterbean is still alive? I didn't think he was. Well, good for him, I suppose. Yeah, he's alive, all right. Mikey Sakura feels like it's going to be shtick like, yeah, I mean, I'm going in with an open mind. I'm going in with an open mind, right? Okay, one more thing before I go. And we're not going to talk about the Thea Hale thing again. Even though I've been pushing this back week after week. Ricochet has not been hiding his contempt for his time in WWE recently. A couple of instances where he has opened up and let it all spill out. He's got nothing. He's not letting anything hold back. Let's read this article here on the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer website. During an appearance on the Mark Hoke show, should I know who Mark Ho is? Hoke? Is chat, help me out. Is this someone? Is this like a sports broadcaster? Is this just like, just a podcast nerd like me? Because I've never heard of Mark Hoke. And, if it's a if it's a sports podcaster, well, that explains why I never heard of him. I don't listen to them. Chat's not answering, so no one knows. During an appearance on the Mark Hoke show, Ricochet said his time in WWE felt like, quote, being blipped away into another universe, unquote, and that his call-up to Raw was the worst thing that happened to his wrestling career. Tell us what you really think, Trevor. The Ricochet that I am now is the same Ricochet that I was on the independent scene and in Japan, and doing things that got me popular to where I am today, he said on the show. Ricochet compared this time on the WWE main roster to the Marvel Cinematic Universe storyline, in which half of the Earth's population is erased from existence for 5 years before being brought back. I love how they, anyway. Okay, erase. Take two. Ricochet continued. You've seen the Marvel movies. Thanos snaps and there was a 5-year blip of people who were just gone. That 5 years was like being blipped away into a different universe. It just wasn't what I was doing. It wasn't me. Coming back to AEW and finding that love. It's like when Tony Stark finally defeated Thanos and all the people came back. That's how I feel. Ricochet finally came back to what he was doing. And I feel like that 5 years was just blipped away. That's a lot of blipping. There's a lot of blips here. There's a lot of fucking blips here. I already know how this is going to sound, and I already know how people are going to take this. But I think that the day we got called up to Raw was the worst thing that happened to Ricochet's wrestling career. Ricochet clarified that he was referring only to the wrestling side of his time in WWE, not personal memories such as meeting his wife. The trajectory I was on, trajectory. What's a trajectory? What is trajectory? Is that a trajection? Trajection is a noun referring to the act of throwing, casting, or transmitting something through or across the space. I have never heard that word before. Transmission through space or some other medium. Okay, all right. I don't know if that's exactly what he meant to say, but he's not far off. He's being very lyrical, at the very least. The trajectory that I was on compared to the trajectory that I got for those 5 years and how it completely changed the public's image of Ricochet and who Ricochet was. Specifically, the wrestling side of it, that 5 years really tarnished Ricochet's wrestling legacy. Folks, he's right. Ricochet was called up to the WWE main roster in early 2019. He was voted most underrated in the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards in 2020 and 2021. Insane. That I can't believe that. And was named Best Flying Wrestler in 2011, 2014, and 2015. He was also named Best Flying Wrestler of the Decade for the 2010s, finishing ahead of Kota Ibushi and Will Ospreay. I've got two things on Ricochet. We're going to start with this one and then we'll move on to the next one, right? Everything he says here is objectively true. Everything he says here can be demonstrated with tangible evidence. The 5 year, when he was in NXT, in the black and gold, he was very much Ricochet. And he was doing Ricochet things and people were excited. There were a ton of people who had never seen Ricochet before. And we got to go back to that era. We got to go, I'm assuming that a lot of you watching right now, listening right now, or live in the chat, I'm assuming that a lot of you are fans, longtime wrestling fans. That that you're not really recent fans. At the very least, you will remember Ricochet from the 2010s era, where he was absolutely one of the best professional wrestlers on the planet. And he was coming up along a Kota Ibushi and a Will Ospreay and many others. And Kenny Omega on top of that, right? Just a couple off the top of my head like that. But there was no question. I don't think anyone would argue, cross their arms and say, you are absolutely wrong. At that time, Ricochet was absolutely one of the best professional wrestlers on earth. And when he was picked up to go to NXT, there was a lot of buzz around it because of the reputation that he had created for himself. Because WWE had snatched up an incredible pro wrestler who was still very young and a guy who could do just about anything, who razzle-dazzled everyone no matter where he went, no matter where he wrestled, just like completely tore the house down every time. And unless you go back and watch those tapes, and even there, I think that even if you go back and watch the tapes, I think it's something you had to be immersed in. You had to be there, where you're in the midst of this buzz and you go, you do the Tim and Eric thing, because that's what it was. That's why people lost their shit with the now infamous Ricochet Will Ospreay match, right? That's why people lost their shit, because these guys were the future. They were going to propulse wrestling forward and be the stars of tomorrow. And look at where we're at least with Will, right? WWE completely grounded Ricochet because Vince did not like these guys. Didn't like smaller guys, didn't like flippy dudes. He didn't like that kind of guy. So he didn't quite know what to do with them. Plus, he'd put him, he'd have Ricochet, he'd try to have Ricochet cut promos where the promos were just complete garbage. Can you imagine? And I'm sure a lot of you have seen Ricochet cut WWE promos, and everyone was unanimous. Don't let the man talk. Keep the microphone away from him. He can't talk. You're just destroying his personality. You're destroying everything. Give him a mouthpiece. He's terrible. Now look at the work he's doing in AEW. Like, he's the mouthpiece for his own group. He's tremendous. And you're seeing I don't know if Ricochet in 2026 is still one of the greatest wrestlers on earth, right? Where I think he's I think he's still very much up there. Top 20? Could have a nice little argument, maybe a top 30, maybe. Because he's still very good. He's still very good. I still think he hasn't had the matches yet where he can really like stretch his legs and really go crazy. I think he hasn't had those matches yet. Where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought because that was a bit of a sidebar. So Ricochet was basically okay. So when he says that his legacy was tarnished by his 5 years being on Raw, he's absolutely right. Because this guy ultimately should be spoken of on with the same level of reverence we talk about Will Ospreay or we talk about Kenny Omega. We should be because that guy was that fucking good. And he was in a company that did not do jack shit with him because they didn't know how to book him. Because the way he wrestled was too spectacular. You've heard the story, right? Of him going back after a match. And I can't remember if it was, I think it was Triple H or Vince telling him, yeah, you got to do less flips. It's like, what the fuck? Like, that's my thing. I'm an aerial guy. I fly around the ring. That's my thing. You're telling me to do less flips? They wanted him to stick to the house style. Well, Ricochet could never thrive in the WWE house style. Ever. It's crazy. So when his contract came up and he decided not to re-sign, I, like many other people, were excited to see what he was going to do because the rumor immediately was, of course, he's going to AEW. He's going to go wrestle with his pals. He's going to go wrestle with Will again, like this. He's going to go wrestle with all the guys that he came up with on the Indies, and all avoided WWE and continued to build their legacy and their star power outside of the WWE system. And now he's like, okay, I can go join these guys now. And I was like, Ricochet is coming in and he's basically still in tip-top shape. His bump card is completely empty. He hasn't been taking any bumps for the past 5 years. So he's good to go. He's healthy. There's nothing holding this guy back. They gave him an Intercontinental Championship so that he'd stop complaining. But his IC, the IC title was never put on any pay-per-views. Remember that? It was put on a pay-per-view finally so that Gunther could take it off of him. And then Gunther had his long-ass reign with it. Do you remember that? Do you remember when Ricochet won the Intercontinental Championship and everyone was going, oh yeah, that rules finally. Ricochet, good job. And he never defended it. He was never on pay-per-view. He was never on TV with it. You remember that era? Preposterous. Anyway, we're not done, but let's see what chat is chatting about. Ricochet being a star everywhere he's been and then hitting the Fed in the prime of his career is an all-time heartbreaker. I mean, yeah. He was done dirty. Of course he was. If you think the owner of a company can do, I'm a moron. I think if you're the owner of a company can do whatever, I think if you're the owner of a company, you can do whatever you want. They don't have to listen to fans and they will suffer since they don't listen to fans, they will suffer the consequences. Yeah, sure. I remember when Ricochet got squashed by Brock Lesnar in Saudi Arabia. That was a disgrace. Remember when Seth was like, Ospreay, who? We got a Ricochet? Yes. But the thing is, it's Seth Rollins, and, that guy's got a big mouth, right? And he writes a lot of checks, is what I should say. He writes a lot of checks that he will never get to cash. This is the other thing. He talks a big fucking game, but he is never going to step out of the WWE bubble and have to confront all these people that he talks shit about. That being said, he wasn't wrong. It was fucking Ricochet. So if he goes, Ospreay, who? We got a Ricochet. He's like, yes, I get it. But WWE never used Ricochet as Ricochet, if that makes sense. Man, I remember Aleister Black and Ricochet called up at the same time, and they had Lana go and look at them and say, Ricochet, I believe, below average, and Aleister was nothing special. I mean, Aleister Black was, they were doing. You remember Aleister Black was on a winning streak? Do you remember this? This is when Paul Heyman was apparently in control of Raw, right? And Aleister Black was winning match after match after match after match, and you're like, give this man a title shot. He's winning he had like a 20 match winning streak, and you're like, what the fuck are you people doing? Give him any kind of title shot. But no, Vince had to get involved and then, put the creaking sounds on the gimmick that lifts him up, right? As if cranking wheels were lifting it. And you're like, oh, this sucks. I think his matches with Ospreay and him being called the greatest high flyer in wrestling is his legacy. A great legacy, and AEW stuff is awesome. I agree. I really do think that he hasn't fully blossomed in AEW yet. I think he hasn't had that opponent yet. Gunther beat Trevor for the title on a SmackDown. That's even worse. I thought it was on a pay-per-view. Oh shit, you're right, now I remember. Because I was smacking my head against the wall. I was like, what the fuck are they doing here? I remember WWE fans tried to throw it in our faces that Ricochet wasn't being utilized, so they threw a mid-card belt on him as a gotcha. That's it. That was the response. And then they made him the Speed Champion, of course. Towards the end, there's like, oh, your contract's coming up. We'll give you a title. We'll give you the Speed title. How about that, champ? Okay. So the other thing that we want to talk about here is Ricochet having a day on social media. This was published on, once again, this article on the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer. Okay, let's just read it. Ricochet published several social media posts on Wednesday that were critical of his time in WWE. On the day he is set to defend his AEW National Championship against Jack Perry on Dynamite, which was yesterday, on the day after we're recording this on January 4th, Ricochet responded to several fans on social media regarding his statements he recently made about his WWE run, responding to a fan who criticized him for not showing gratitude towards WWE. Yuck. Kiss the ring. Ricochet wrote, quote, "They took my love of pro wrestling away. I'll never forget how I felt walking into work every week, and that platform was only to make others look good at my expense. And I told them I'd rather quit and go back to the indies and make whatever I'd make there than to come back next week." And I'm sure he did. He later added, "And because of that, then they made me IC champion, of course, Intercontinental champion, and didn't grant me my release. because he did. He revealed here that he asked multiple times for his release and he was denied. And they said, let's give him a title to shut him up, which is a complete Vince thing to do. And they gave him the title and he never defended it, was never on pay-per-view. Fucking place, man. Responding to a post about him saying WWE tarnished his legacy, Ricochet wrote, Same thing happens to Balor, Shinsuke, Apollo, and many others. WWE kills legacies and love of the sport. It's what they do best. We've heard these types of comments before. This is not new. And WWE just sucks the love you have for pro wrestling. I wonder where did I hear that? Not too long ago was a guy, his name is, John Moxley. John Moxley. Interesting. And here he goes, he's saying, it's like, Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Apollo Crews. They all feel the same way. They just get the love sucked out of them, right? Which is a shame, especially coming from guys like, Prince Devitt and Shinsuke Nakamura, who were established significant stars. Regarding championships he won during his time in WWE, Ricochet wrote, "These titles mean nothing. My title now is way more important nowadays." That, of course, it's fine. He's a good company guy, right? I mean, that's okay. But I love this one here. I love this response here. Ricochet responded to a fan about the success of guys like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in WWE, writing, "I'd argue El Generico has a better legacy than Sami Zayn. And brother, if I have never read something more truthful from the mouth of a pro wrestler, I don't know what is. Holy shit." And I agree. El Generico has a profound influence on professional wrestling. What has Sami Zayn done? Being the goofy guy in the bloodline? Oh, wow, man. Right up until then, Sami Zayn was a guy that you could write in and off as things, and just without a care in the world. He was a comedy guy. Remember what Sami Zayn was doing before the bloodline stuff? Do you remember? He was doing his documentary angle. Oh yes. That we never saw. And never will. But that's what they were doing. But Ricochet is right. I agree with him. What has Sami Zayn done that has been so era-defining, that has been so significant in WWE? Just going through the motions, he's doing his thing. He had there was one moment that they could have done something really interesting with Sami and help really establish Sami as something different, something new in WWE. And that was the Elimination Chamber in Montreal a couple of years ago against Roman Reigns, where everyone was expecting Sami to win. Everyone was hoping Sami was going to be the guy to defeat Roman. And it all made sense on top of that in their little storyline, in their little bloodline, one act play that, what am I saying? One act, like, the 1,000 act play. But it all made sense in their little shindig that they had going. It all made sense for Sami to beat Roman on top of that. So it would have been perfect. They would have tried something new, but no, they didn't have the balls to do it. Because Roman had to have this 1,000-day reign or whatever the fuck that no one even talks about anymore. Have you noticed No one even mentions this legendary 1,000-day reign because no one gives a fuck. No one gave a fuck back in the day. And no one gives a fuck today. No, people did give a fuck about it back in the day, WWE fans, but now no one cares. No one cares. We're all moving on to something else. It's just, we all knew it was bunk anyway. Doesn't matter. But there we go. Ricochet just like letting it all out. And there's one thing we have to say about this guy. And there's one thing that we absolutely have to say is that all throughout the 5 years he was there, he was not a guy who got onto social media complaining about his spot, or posting pictures of himself, in a straight jacket, all that kind of. He never did any of that shit. He was a good soldier. He said, look, I'm still here. I'm still hanging around doing this. I am going to be a good employee, front facing. I'm going to be positive. I'm not going to let anything, I'm not going to air any grievances out onto the internet. And I respect that. What he's doing here is absolutely fine. If he wants to come out and just like let it and have a moment where he just lets everything out, where he can finally get all of this shit off his chest, good for him. And the fact that he did not do it while he was gainfully employed by WWE is something that I respect. Because how many wrestlers, look at all the goofballs who did that, over the years. Look at Andrade, right? Look at all these guys pining for WWE and whatnot. It sucks. It sucks because this guy, like it was pointed out in the chat, hey, King of the North, nice to see you. Speaking of, welcome to the chat, man. As it was pointed out in the chat earlier, this guy was taken by WWE and wasted for 5 years. 5 years of his prime athletic prowess. They did jack shit with him. They did nothing. And I mean, that's an MO in WWE. Lapping up talent, extremely talented people, only to do nothing with them. That's also part of the MO, right? And he also, he went on as well. It's like, well, why do people go to WWE if it's so bad, right? And he responded. He said it himself. It's because for some people it's their dream. For most people it's the dream to be in WWE, to be in the big promotion, in the big leagues. It's their dream. That's why people still think they can go and oh, what happened to that guy's not going to happen to me because I'm so different. It's it's a fucking crying shame when you think about it. And that this guy was miserable. He was like, please let me go. Please, I am begging you, release me from my contract. I want to go do anything else than be here. You are sucking the love out of everything that I trained to be. Please let me go. You are not happy with what I'm doing. I am not happy with what I'm doing. But of course, we know how that story went. I have no issues with him going out, airing his grievances like that. It continues to confirm stuff that we all implicitly know and understand about WWE. It just continues to feed that. And now he's in AEW, and you can tell that he's enjoying it, that he's having the time of his life. Like I said, I think he still hasn't had the great match yet. He still hasn't had the great opponent yet. He hasn't had that big defining match, and it probably eats at him. I would assume that a guy like Ricochet wants to have the big 5-star barn burner that people will talk about for years. I don't think this is a guy who's content at thinking that his best years are 10 years ago. I don't think he's into that. 10, 12 years ago. I don't think he's into that. I think this is a guy who feels like, look, he talked about his legacy. He talked about WWE tarnishing his legacy. This is absolutely a guy who wants to reset the buzzer and come back stronger, come back swinging. I mean, like, look, this is what I can do here. This is what I can do. Look at this is the guy that I always could be. I think that it's clearly important to him. He wants to right the wrongs. I mean, he's in the best possible promotion to do it. And he's doing a fantastic job. I think he's taking a lot of people by surprise. The thing that took me the most by surprise is his mic work. That's the thing that took me the most by surprise. Anyway, and of course, he laid the smackdown on perennial dum-dum Jimmy Corderas, which was fantastic. Y'all want to go have a little fun at dum-dum Jimmy Corderas's, at him completely destroying Jimmy Corderas to the point that Jimmy Corderas doesn't have a comeback to him other than, oh, what a potty mouth or something like that. You know, it's like, oh, what mature discourse. Like, he's got nothing. So all he can do is, you use the word cuck in your response. What a mature way to converse. That's why I hate this platform. So you're like, owned. Eat shit, Corderas, you dummy, you dum-dum, you absolute dum-dum. I don't think a lot of the underrated dumb guy Jimmy Corderas thing, it's been a fun little meme, but I don't think it's underrated anymore. I don't think he is properly rated now. I think everyone has come around and like, yeah, you know what? This guy's a fool. He's a dummy. He's a dum-dum. Caping for a company that has refused to employ him for 30 years. Maybe not 30, 20, easily 20, 25 maybe. Yeah. Absolutely. There's spots that have been opened up on the regular dum-dum Lyle. Let's put him closer to the action. Let's put him into view more. We don't have to keep him in the bleachers anymore. Yeah. Have him fill some seats. I bet Jimmy Corderas, not a bad guy. I don't know what they say. Jimmy Corderas is he's a bad take machine on Twitter. And when I mean bad takes, I mean like demonstrably takes that can be I can't talk anymore. Takes that can be demonstrated as being 100% wrong and false, and yet he hangs on to them like for dear life, as if they're his children, as if he's defending the honor of his wife. It's preposterous. Sometimes I think if only AEW was born 5 years earlier, they would have had Balor, Nakamura, Styles, Owens, Zayn, Gargano, and others. Maybe. I mean, look, there's a lot of things you can go back and wonder. Would they have? I would probably say, look, having followed his career because he's a guy from Quebec, Kevin Owens 100% would have wanted to gone to WWE. he grew up watching WWE. His dream was to be in WWE. When he was on the indies, that was his thing. His dream was to be in WWE. He wanted to wrestle his hero, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He even got to do that. No, like, the thing here is that what Ricochet said in one of his responses, and which is also very true, is that for some people, WWE is the dream. That's what they go to bed dreaming about the WrestleMania moment, and one day it's going to be me. So yes, there's hundreds and hundreds of guys and girls that have never got their WrestleMania dreams or their WWE dreams fulfilled, but I'm not like the others. That's what wrestlers are. Oh, you sent the funny photo? Okay, I'll check that in a second. Ricochet is the beast, Tokyo Dome and Arena Mexico main eventer in the last 365 days. Correct. One of the greatest high flyers of the sport of pro wrestling has ever seen. Yeah, I put that over pretty hard. These idiots arguing with him will never and have never seen one of his Dragon Gate or New Japan matches. They haven't seen anything of him outside of NXT, maybe. And then NXT's a big maybe. Him mentioning Apollo Crews popped me huge. He's been there for ages and never tapped into his potential. I mean, there's a guy who's completely wasted. But there's a guy who never had the guts to pull the trigger either. You know? There's a match with him and Pac from the Indies that has reels on Instagram, and it may be the best match I've ever seen. So wildly athletic. Like if we're talking, there's a whole era of Pac who is also, Pac has always been great, but there's an era of him where he's just completely insane. You'll never guess it, Warren. You remember that Steve Macklin firing TNA did last week? 'Twas only a work. He attacked Santana in a backstage segment. God damn it, they got us. They got us. Can't believe that TNA, they worked the smarks. Good. Damn it. Oodly doodly. Whatever. All right, let's take a look at this. Let me see this picture that Kristen sent me. Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. Because yes, I had heard that that MJF and Seth Rollins had a meeting of the minds today at a Super Bowl thing, but I hadn't seen the. What do you mean attachment? Just take the fucking picture. My God, man. Technology is supposed to make our lives easier. You expect something to just drag and drop, right? And to work, but it doesn't. Now you have to do this fucking bullshit. And seen this with with Swerve doing the bidding war of 2024 thing. Then MJF responding with probably what will probably be the well, it's an early contender for meme of the year. Pro wrestling meme of the year, right? Two absolute shit stains on modern professional wrestling. Hit the bricks, pal. Hit the bricks. Get out of here. MJF is underappreciated. And I will always say that. We are better off with MJF. That Seth Rollins and MJF photo has to be AI? No, they were at a, from what I understand, some kind of radio thing, some kind of setup, some radio setup about for the Super Bowl today. It was like a media event for the Super Bowl. And yeah, they just happened to be in the same place at the same time. So of course they understood that, you know, people on the internet will not like this. Oh, these wrestlers, they can't be friends with each other. What is that? They cannot be carousing with each other. That would be awful. Wack and Wild is another top pro wrestler, but his game dropped because of Penta. I don't remember seeing anything from Wack and Wild outside of NXT. So, I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong. I just, you know, what was his full potential? I don't have any recollection. I don't remember. I barely remember him in NXT back in the day in the black and gold thing. MJF versus Mystico is better than anything in that other Geeks match catalog. MJF versus Mystico is one of the greatest Lucha Libre matches of all time. I might be exaggerating for Lucha Libre, but for me, it's one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. It was my match of the year last year. It's just an incredible piece of work. Simple, violent, brutal, little trashy. Excellent. Two top guys doing top guy shit, making the crowd get on their feet, making the crowd believe. Mystico bleeding like a pig. Jesus Christ. I did not see Kyle Fletcher ask him if he forgot his lifts. I did not see Kyle Fletcher ask him if he forgot his lifts, but that's pretty funny. I gotta say, that's pretty funny. That's good. Well, listen. MJF our haters are in the mud this year. So far, yeah. They're not running out. They're staying in their lane. I don't see them giving out many compliments at how great everything's going and how good it was for him to get squashed by Brody. Never hear any of that though. Warren Hayes, can you give me a brief take on Andrade? Since being freed from the shackles of the Fed, I'm still tiptoeing, but it's been a good start. That's pretty much where I am. I talked about Andrade I talk about my feelings about Andrade on my Dynamite review. So, you know, you can always go watch that. But I guess the cliff notes is that, you know, I specifically talk about him saying, oh, I want to retire in AEW now. No, this is the place to be and whatnot. And I'm like, buddy, you know, like I am very excited, very happy at the idea of Andrade being out there, motivated, having some really solid matches. I mean, he's a good worker. He's never not been a good worker. Okay. Like, we gotta be frank here, but you know, like he's motivated, he's into it. He's gleaming, like he's got a sparkle in his eye. Of course, you know, I'd have a sparkle in my eye too if my gimmick was, you know, women ringside flirt with me. You know, it's like that'd probably put a little bounce in my step too. But the idea, I'm joking, of course, but nonetheless, like the whole presentation, the package, he seems really happy. And that's good because it's coming across, and you know, he's not trying to be Scarface. He's just being a good pro wrestler, doing good pro wrestling things. But I cannot but keep that guy at arm's length, because the minute things aren't going to go his way, oh boy, you got to keep that dude at arm's length. But again, like just to make sure we understand ourselves, I can also believe that people can change. Is Andrade still the miserable fuck that he typically is in locker rooms? And is he still the guy who burns bridges with every promoter he's ever worked for? Well, look, at the very least, clearly he didn't burn a bridge with Tony Khan. Whereas probably a lot of us would. We put him like, hey, fuck you, man, type of thing. He obviously didn't, because he returned to AEW and he was welcomed with open arms. He's in a great program right now. He's in the world title picture, the exciting AEW world title picture right now. He's involved in it. So can people change? Sure. I also think people can change a lot when they realize that there's only one place that they can work for now moving forward, because they've burned bridges everywhere else. So that can be a pretty solid impetus of change at the same time. That's my take on Andrade, right? Good worker. Good worker. He's solid. He's always been a good worker. The issue has rarely been, is Andrade a good worker? The issues have been twofold. His attitude and his perception of being a bigger deal than what he actually is. Those have always been the two issues with Andrade. And then some bookers kind of agreeing and saying, yeah, he is a superstar. But then you're like, it's fucking Andrade. What the hell, Exactly. We've seen this Titanic hit the iceberg before. I hope it goes well. I hope Andrade has a steady, bountiful career working AEW and then the partner promotions. Maybe the CMLL people will be able to, maybe the CMLL people will look past the past and welcome him back and be like, yes, come back. We'll let you wrestle again. Look, CMLL has been accepting all sorts of people through AEW, coming into, AAA guys coming in to wrestle under the guise of AEW and stuff like that. So, it's been, it's been wild, to say the very least. So, maybe they're not the petty fucks that they once were. I still think there is some pettiness, but maybe there's some people that they're ready to be more forgiving of because they work with some of their strategic partners. So I'm sure Andrade is going to be working the New Japan show next Wednesday, right? He's going to be in Osaka. Isn't it Wednesday? He's going to be working the New Beginning show. So he's going to go do that. He's a part of the United Empire over there, and I'm sure at some point he'll pop into CMLL, and it's going to be a big deal. He'll show up in Arena Mexico, and people will go nuts if they do a Grand Slam arena in Mexico again. I mean, I think that's the way. That's the one you got to do. You got to bring in Andrade. You have to fight. We're talking about Mystico. Slap him up there with fucking Zandakan Jr. What are you talking about? Like, that's one you want to watch. That's one you want to see. Throw in Soberano Jr. These are fucking rad matches. So that's kind of where I am with our boy Andrade. Andrade Hechicero clone versus Sky Team. Look, it writes itself. It writes itself. Yeah, El Clone working CMLL. That'd be pretty rad too. Arez doing that. Rixos, nice to see you, pal. Welcome to the chat. Member of the channel on top of that. Hey-o. I'm very high on Andrade. They mentioned his match with Kenny in athleticism, and I think that's fair. They mentioned he matched Kenny in athleticism last night, and I think that's fair. It was very good. A very, very good match by both those guys. It was tremendous. Doing the little countdown and everything. I understand your caution with Andrade. He's doing very good for AEW, CMLL, and New Japan. For everyone's sake, I hope he keeps it up. Look, I'm completely... I've been down this road before. Like Evan said, we've seen this Titanic hit the iceberg before. So, you know, I legitimately hope nothing but the best. I hope nothing but the best. I love that the fuck ice thing has taken with AEW being at the forefront. I agree. Andrade and Roosh are the same guy to me. I love it when it's working and always assume it'll come to a car crash end. Yeah, I'm surprised Roosh is not like... I'm surprised Roosh is not like, you know, losing his shit right now on social media. I'm really, really surprised. Remember when he tried to get... he tried to start up a thing with the Death Riders on Twitter? Boy, that went nowhere fast. No Roosh rants tonight. No Roosh rants tonight. We're good. We're good. We're going to wrap this one up, actually. What do you mean your heat has been out for 24 hours? Rick, pay your fucking bills. I assume Roosh already lost it, and that's why he hasn't been seen for a while. Tugging on the collar there. All right. Oh, this is fun. This was fun. This was fun. This is a 3-hour plus stream that we're into right now. We gotta end this. We gotta move on. I'm out of water. I'm out of water and I'm hungry. All right. Thank you all very much for showing up tonight. Don't forget, AEW Dynamite Review is available right now here on the YouTube channel and on your favorite podcast application of choice. There's a very fair chance I will be reviewing the Stardom show this weekend. It will be available for early access for members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. So consider becoming a member. If this is your first time here, and I know there's been some first timers here, consider subscribing to the channel so that you never miss this beautiful face. I think maybe next time I might shave down a bit. I'm getting scruffy again, but I think we're going to get back to, we're going to lose the scruffy, then we're going to become devilishly handsome once again. Have a great rest of your night, everyone. Have an even better weekend on top of that. Thank you for showing up, and I will see you next time. Mwah!